Hello! Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. It's been a while since we streamed. I'm going to say hello so long, so I have something to say, so you guys can tell me if you can hear me okay. So I'm gonna say hello to, there's a lot of people in chat compared to usual. Hello to Seth, and to me and my guester, and Raffen, not sure which one, and Charles, and Lunatic Productions, and Zentron, and Hey Boppy, and Vinny Luna Style, said that right this time, I hope. Obada, I believe it is, and Lorenzo is here too, and Grandsock, and Hunter, and Frog50, and I think that's everyone. I'm a little quiet. Okay, hold on. If I turn this up, does this turn up the mic? How's that? Is that better? Maybe I just need to kind of talk louder. That's possible. Just excuse me. I'm just talking so you guys can actually hear me. And turn this a little bit down because it's a little high. And I think that should be okay. Let me check if I have a limiter on or something, but I shouldn't. No, I don't have monitoring on. Oh, I hear something. Oh, hey, thank you, Charles, for becoming a member. Do I sound okay? You can hear me okay? Okay, that's great. So how is everyone? I want to say just right off the top, thank you so much to all the patrons. Because of their support, we are doing an art stream today because we have reached the art stream tier. Sound okay? Okay, great. I'm glad. I'll try and speak up. I think like in my regular life, I speak a lot quieter than I do when I'm recording. So that might also be why I'm just like out of practice to use my, what would you call it? Recording voice? YouTube voice? One of those. I'll also just lean into the mic more. But hey, how is everyone? Let me get the screen capture going because I do know, especially for people who watch afterwards, who watch the VOD, they don't always want me to like say hi for half an hour before I start actually drawing. I did a lot of yelling. I did do a lot of yelling in my previous videos. It's very true. How am I? I'm doing good, thank you. It's just very cold here. It is exceptionally cold here at the moment, but it's starting to warm up. Like, we're no longer sitting at single digits in terms of weather, which is nice, and it stopped raining, at least where I live. I was very lucky with the rain. I'm sure most of you, because I think most of you aren't in South Africa, so I don't think many of you are aware. The rain has been insane. I believe like Cape Town is underwater, and I know that like a couple of towns surrounding where I live are underwater. I'm very lucky. I live on the cliffs overlooking the sea, so we did not get the water. But it's finally stopped raining, and we're finally out of single digits weather, so it's been going better than it has been for like the past, I don't know, month or so. It has been over 100 for the past week there. I think my conversion to Fahrenheit isn't the best, but I believe that's not too bad. It's when it starts getting into like 109, 110, I believe is when it gets too bad. Have I seen Across the Spider-Verse yet? I have not, and you guys are going to be exceptionally upset with me. I still need to see the first one. And I know that's terrible, especially because it is my industry. But it came out in a time where I just wasn't around movie theaters. And I think it's on Netflix now. So I think that's something I should get on, just to kind of have a frame of reference. Because I'm also seeing a lot more TV shows are listing it as inspiration, and that's kind of like, it's inspired the industry and it's changed the route of the industry so much that I'm at the point where I have to watch it, even just for like reference sake. I'm jealous. It's been scorching hot there in Turkey. Yeah, I can imagine. Okay, bit of an admission. I sometimes watch YouTube channels that talk about drama happening in the YouTube space. Like, I've just been watching the Swoop video that you put out today, which I'd rather not go into that topic because it's very upsetting. But anyway, so there's a YouTuber I watch who lives in Kuwait, and I think in Kuwait it's like hitting 50. So I know that the Northern Hemisphere, it's just insane at the moment in terms of just temperature. Like, it's just ridiculous. Anyway, before we start chatting, I am going to ask you guys what you think we should draw today, because unlike High Guardian Spice, I don't feel like drawing the Velma characters. I have no interest in drawing any of these characters because they're all terrible. And can I joke about it being bad for my mental health? It's not really. It's a joke. But is that like a poor joke to make, that it is bad for my mental health to draw the Velma characters? Because they're so awful. They're just terrible. Somebody's saying Hell of a Boss would be a little bit too difficult because they're like super detailed in design. The characters, they're like really detailed. And because I'm not used to drawing them, I'm worried that I'll screw them up and make a fool of myself. Oh hey, thank you so much for the super chat, Indigo. Hey Sipa, been watching 4chan get mad at DreamWorks for killing the gay rom in Ruby Gilman. They're even pulling out the evidence. I haven't heard about that. I don't really frequent 4chan that much. There's the alert. I don't really frequent 4chan much, not for any like moral reason. It just doesn't really gel with how I like to interact with people on the internet, if that makes sense. It's just a personality thing. So I've been missing all of that. I do know that this new show that's come out, which apparently is more focused, like it's about a Latina character or such, apparently that's making a lot of people really angry. Like, that is one thing I'm aware of. Oh, Nimona. Yeah, I heard Nimona. That should be out on Netflix for me at the moment as well. Draw characters from Angel's Friends. Not really sure what that is. Your logo avatar stand-in is taking up massive chunk of the screen. Any chance of making it smaller? Okay, yes. You are completely right. I thought I did have it smaller, but let me just change it. You guys are good to, I haven't streamed in a while. It's been a while, so... Oh, it's locked. It would help if I, like, unlock it. No, it's not locked. Why are you not resizing? Select this. There we go. Transition. There we go. That should be better. Sorry about that. Have you watched Trigun Stampede? I have not. That is one thing I'm actually wondering in terms of future videos. Because I am a massive fan of the original Trigun. I love the 1998 Trigun. And I hear the new one is very good in terms of writing. I am just kind of dying on the inside a little bit because it's in 3D. And that is not because of any, like... Again, it's not a moral thing. I'm a 2D animator. And I don't dislike that it's in 3D because I'm a 2D animator. I am a 2D animator because I instinctively like 2D more, if that makes sense. So it's difficult for me to be like, oh, they've made another Trigun anime and it's in 3D. so I was thinking that might be a topic for a video and calling it something like trying to love the new Trigun, because I know it's apparently very good. Let's see. As like I said, we should focus on what I should be drawing first. And like I said, I'm going to ask you guys' help for a little bit with that, just because I'm unsure what to do. Because again, I don't want to draw Velma. Oi, Primos is an awful representation, and when called out on it, the creator said, sorry, I didn't know. Also, speaking Spanish is racist because you were colonized. What? I'm going to have to look into that. Let me just see what people are saying. Let's see. What about Mario? Not really sure. Oh, hey. Let me just check the name. Trey Windle. Thank you so much for the super chat. That's really, really kind of you. Sorry, like I said, I'm a little rusty, but we're gonna walk through it. Okay, I am going to check what kind of reference I have, and then we will go with that, because I think we're all a little bit stuck on what to draw today. And then we can chat a bit like what I want to do when now that Velma is basically behind us. There's the supercut coming up, but I mean that's not going to have any new content. It's just going to have the old content in like one convenient package. And I'm waiting for Sailor Moon Cosmos to come out, because I'm definitely doing a video on that because it's Sailor Moon. But that's not out yet, so I kind of have to wait until I can get my hands on a good copy of it. I mean, this is kind of a cop-out, but I mean, we can probably draw something like Hatsune Miku or something like that. What do you guys think? You guys up for some just straightforward Hatsune Miku. Draw both Trigun styles. Ooh, maybe we should draw Trigun. I'll have to like grab a reference image quickly, but I think we can do that. Miku? Okay, let's do Miku. Yes. So I'm just gonna do, I'm just gonna do a basic structure first, and then we'll pull up some reference to make sure I don't completely destroy her design, but I kind of have a rough idea of what she looks like. I'll just have to like double check for details. Yeah, there's a new Sailor Moon coming out. I saw somebody asking about that in chat right now. They are releasing the final manga chapter, which I forget what it's called in the manga, but the movie is going to be in 2 parts, like the Super S movie, for lack of a better word, and it is called Sailor Moon Cosmos, and it is going to be what in the original anime was the Stars arc. However, it's going to include Sailor Cosmos herself, who's never been in an anime before. It's going to include a lot of the Galaxia Guardians, like Papillon. Sailor Papillon is finally going to be in an anime, which I'm very excited about. And the, what are they called? Like Lith, and oh jeez, she has such a difficult name. The 2 guardians who guard the River of Forgetfulness, like they're getting their anime debut, and there's like a lot of characters who just never made it into the original anime who are finally getting a manga debut. No, that doesn't work. So that's very exciting. And I'm excited because I really like the final chapter of the manga. If I do this, is her arm kind of broken? No, that should be okay. And I really like Sailor Stars. I can't decide if I like Stars more or less than I do S or the Infinity Arc. Oh wait, her things come out up here. But it's very exciting for a lot of reasons, and I wasn't super impressed with the Super S movie that came out recently, but Sailor Moon is one of those things, even if you're not super into the newest content, you're still excited when you know there is new content coming out, just because you're like, oh, it's new content, finally. Let me just move my chat, because not on screen, just here in the physical world, so I can actually see what people are saying, because my setup is actually making it difficult for me to be able to see. There we go, that should be better. Oh, turn this. There we go. I just want new Sailor V content. Same. I wish if they could just please do a Sailor V anime. Please. Because they've done like, they've released new versions of the Sailor Moon manga. Sailor V manga. They have translated it more than once into English. Like, it's not as if the Western world doesn't know about Sailor V. Like, we know about Sailor V. I don't know why they don't just greenlight that. I don't know if it's something like Naoko doesn't want them to, or what's going on there. What's the next video you plan on doing? I am a little bit stumped, mostly because it's a little intimidating to go after a series which did very well for my channel, and then try and think, okay, well, what can I cover that keeps the ball rolling? So although I know I'm about 2 months behind, I was considering giving just a singular video talking about the Mario movie, specifically because I do not have any nostalgia for Mario at all, not because I avoided it, but because Nintendo has never really had a presence in my country. Like, I didn't know what Legend of Zelda was until I watched the old Screw Attack videos, where they would have like top 10s of like best NES games, and they'll have like best NES music themes, and then they gave it to Zelda, and I'm like, what the hell is a Zelda? So I just don't have that history. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about the Mario movie, just because they can't play to my nostalgia because it doesn't exist. I know what Mario is, obviously. I've watched enough Let's Plays, and I've played some Mario games, but it's just that nostalgia is not there for me. So I thought that might be interesting. However, I'm just concerned because it has been 2 months since the movie came out, so I'm worried that I'm a little behind, but I also don't want to build this reputation on YouTube that you come to my channel to learn about the newest and hottest animated movies, because I am very slow to get to things. I kind of get to things in my own time. It's just kind of part of my personality. So I don't want to build up this expectation of, oh, if there's a new movie coming out, my channel is the one you're going to go to for like a report on of it, because that's just not how I work. And I think that's a very quick way to be inauthentic to how I work and my approach to things. So that's one thing. Another thing I'm considering is I am very seriously considering doing a video on Daikon 4, especially because it turns 40 years old this year. So I am wondering if I should do that. I probably will at some point. I'm just worried that it's too niche a topic. I know people kind of know what Daikon is these days, but I'm still worried that the views just won't be there. And then obviously I have to return to the Disney ranking as well. That one's just a little daunting because, you know, I have to watch a bunch of movies versus a few episodes. Never played a single Mario or Zelda game. I have. I've played Twilight Princess. And I've played Super Paper Mario, which I really enjoyed. And a few of the Mario RPGs. But I haven't played like a mainline Mario game. Let me focus on what I'm doing here. Otherwise she's going to look very strange. Twilight Princess? Yeah, Twilight Princess is so good. Like, genuinely, it's such a great game. Hey, Magic Medic. I love Spirit Tracks. It was my first Zelda game. My first Zelda game was, I think it was Story of Seasons or something, but I ended up not liking it, so I don't really count that one because I dropped it, and I was quite young at the time, so I played it a bit, wasn't really into it, and then didn't really touch it again. So I don't really count that one, so I usually just go with Twilight Princess was my first Zelda, because it's kind of true. Do this. Let me just focus on this eye quickly so I don't spend 50 hours just doing it because I'm not focusing on what I'm doing. Let's use mechanical pencil. Do this. Let's adjust some things here. Do that. Change to design pencil. I always give characters like way too much chin. I don't know why. That is almost always an issue when I draw human faces. I'll chalk that up to maybe spending too much of my life drawing either Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles or My Little Pony or Ratchet and Clank, so my experience with human faces is a lot less than it honestly should be. Oh well. You don't think you've ever played a Zelda game? I really enjoyed Twilight Princess, and I know it's not a Zelda game, but apparently it takes a lot of cues from Zelda. I really enjoyed Okami. Like, Okami, now that is a fantastic game. Okami is just next level. And I assume because I liked Okami, I would like Zelda. But, see, it's difficult because Nintendo is released here. Like, you can get a Switch, but it's not widespread, if that makes any sense. Like, I can go online and order a Switch if I want, but it's not like a household name, really. It's just like, oh yeah, the Switch is a thing that exists. And it was like that with the Wii as well. And it was like that with the Wii U. And before the Wii, I don't think we had like a large release of any Nintendo system whatsoever. It just, they weren't interested in releasing to South Africa, I guess. I guess the money just wasn't there. Not the head version. No. I have been doing a lot more, it's not life drawing really. I've been using a lot of photo references just to kind of spruce up my art skills a little bit, because I have found that I was struggling a little bit with human anatomy, and that was like upsetting me. So I have been doing that a lot more to try and get better. Which makes it sound like I'm bad at it or something. I'm not really. It's just, if I get like frustrated with a drawing at any point, I'm like, oh geez, I'm getting frustrated. That means I obviously need more practice with what it is that's bothering me. Yeah, South Africa was economically isolated for a really long time for reasons. Yeah, that's true. In the 80s, we probably would not have gotten Nintendo at all. But by the... when would it be? Would it be 1990 or 1994? One of those. Then we would have opened up to international businesses, but I think it just wasn't economically worthwhile to them, I guess. They just were like, you guys don't have enough money. This ear is a bit small. That's better. I'm just going to move this over a bit. There we go. There we go, that's better. Been enjoying your Mass Effect art despite me knowing nothing about Mass Effect. I have been threatening to do it since April, but I am dead set on doing the Mass Effect Let's Play or streams over on... I started a gaming channel, there's nothing on it yet. Basically, I don't want to start doing gaming content. I just want to play Mass Effect because I want to, like, indoctrinate people to come into the Mass Effect fandom and become obsessed with it. And I do know several of my followers on Tumblr, like, they don't have a computer with the specs to be able to run it, or they can't play shooters really, or any kind of reason like that. So I'm like, okay, well, obviously the solution is to play Mass Effect myself and, like, indoctrinate them into also being obsessed with it. Especially because, I think I might have talked about this before. I don't know if it was in a live stream. Essentially, Let's Players, like the big name Let's Players online, I know Wooly has done a full Mass Effect playthrough, but they generally don't want to do Mass Effect playthroughs because the first game is 40 hours. The second game clocks in around 60 hours, maybe 65, and the last game, I think that's like 70 or 80 hours. So it's a very large time sink. So if you're doing a streaming channel where you play video games, it's you know, they don't want to stick with a single game for too long because people lose interest. And also, the streamers who did or do play Mass Effect, they tend to be dudes, which that's not the problem. The problem is because they're dudes, they play male Shep, who is the inferior Shepard, in my opinion, in terms of, like, performance and characterization and stuff. And also, if you play male Shep, you can't romance Garrus. So I thought, well, what if I do a stream of Mass Effect where I play as female Shep and I romance Garrus and kind of just infect other people into caring about the series. So that's kind of the motivation behind it. What am I doing with my anatomy here? Let's see, maybe I need a bigger brush. Let's do this. This is all wrong. Twist this. Do this. true Vicarian as best boy. He is. One of my friends actually recently did a Mass Effect playthrough where she purposefully decided not to romance Garrus and she romanced Caden instead, just to kind of see what it was like. And she says even if you don't romance Garrus, he still ends up being the best, like, partner because he's your best friend if you don't romance him, and he just ends up being a lot, like, better of a partner than Caden is. It's really funny. Femshit got amazing cover art for Mass Effect 3. The raid really popped. Yeah, and I just feel like Jennifer Hale's performance is a lot better and more interesting. And I just think that Femship's character design, it's just more interesting because Maleship's character design, I mean, he's just like generic gamer dude bro with stubble, and that's it. Whereas, you know, Femship, she has the shocking red hair, she's got the freckles, she's got like actual character design to her, so that's also part of it. Do this. I know I'm faffing around here with the anatomy. There we go. Nope, there we go. CPerf. Tommy Taylorson, who voices Scott Ryder, also voiced Zenikichi from Persona 5, Strikers, and Octodad from Octodad. Also, sorry, I think you mean late. A wee bit sick right now. Oh, I'm sorry, Bluntosaurus. I'm glad you could make it, though, and I hope you feel better. Jennifer Hale, who does Femship, I know that one of her other big roles in terms of gaming is... I don't know the character's name, but the main character, the female main character from Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem, that's also Jennifer Hale. Generally, though, I try not to focus on the voice actors for Mass Effect, apart, you know, Jennifer Hale just because she's the main character, but I generally don't like thinking about the voice actors because it kind of takes me out of the reality of the game, if that makes sense. For instance, this is an example of how it kind of screwed me over, is I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition, and I happened to be playing that game at the exact time when the voice actor for Cullen, I don't know his name, but the voice actor for Cullen, he suffers from, I believe it's bipolar. And what happens with people who have bipolar, and this is a symptom a lot of them have, is sometimes they will leave the house and just kind of wander off. And I don't know why that happens. I'm not a psychology major or anything, but it's just it's like a symptom that a lot of them go through. And unfortunately, when I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition, the voice actor for Cullen had left his home and wandered off, and his family didn't know where he was. And he turned out to be fine. They found him eventually. But the entire time I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition, I was just very worried about where this voice actor was, which unfortunately meant every single time Cullen spoke to me, that's all I could think about. And it kind of low-key ruined the game for me. And that's kind of like why I try not to really think about the voice actors while playing the game, if that makes sense. Like, I want to treat the characters as their own entity, in a way. Caden, a man tragically born without a personality. It's true. And it's weird, because, like, he has an interesting backstory, and he has interesting, like, writing behind him. He's just so bland. And I guess if you are playing a female character and that's the kind of character you're into, like, that's kind of what they were going for. I think the best thing they did with Caden is they made him bisexual in the third game, because, let's face it, he was kind of giving that vibe in the first game anyway. But there's not much to him. He's just kind of a nice guy. He's just nice and bland. And that's about it. Not much else to him. I tend not to focus on VAs too much for similar reasons. Best to keep the character separate from the actor. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mentioned Jennifer Hale. I think with Shepard, I can think of Jennifer Hale because Shepard is kind of molded by the choices you make for her. Her personality is shaped by you, the player's choices. But the other characters, I don't like thinking about them as actors playing a role, if that makes sense. I like to think of them as characters with, like, personalities and a presence within the world. And I like thinking about the characters as, like, I don't want to say people because it's not that deep, but they have their own histories and experiences, and I like focusing on that. And I don't like thinking like, oh, this character is voiced by this person, they previously voiced so and so, and they are known for playing so and so character. And so, you know, I don't like thinking about those things. I like thinking about the character, their personality, and like what made them the way they are. I think that one's a little, should be like that, yeah. Turn this. I'll check if I actually drew the hand too small in a sec. I just want to get it down first, because I'm a little rusty drawing on stream. But like I said, we're just going to work through it, and it's fine. It is okay to sometimes do mediocre art. It is not the end of the world. It is not a scandal. Sometimes that's just how it is. What am I getting wrong here? Let me turn her hand so I can see this properly. So this is her palm. Here is the wrist. The thumb comes in here, like this. This is this joint. This is this joint. Middle finger's a bit tad short. Yeah, I think this one is actually too long because the middle finger is a little bit longer. Like that. There we go. I think this one's a little long. Oh, hey King, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey Puffy, good to have you back streaming. What are you drawing? We are drawing Hatsune Miku because I didn't want to draw any of the Velma characters, and I didn't want to spend too much time in this stream wondering what to draw. And I was like, you know what? We'll draw Miku because Miku is cool, and I know very few people who would be upset about drawing Miku. And I'm a little bit rusty, so we're kind of just powering through it, but oops, but it's fine. I could never do hands. I tend to be okay with hands, and I couldn't tell you why. There's the alert for the super chat. Thank you. I don't know why. I don't regularly struggle with hands. It's just like I remember being in college and doing life drawing, and we had to do like hands as a class for an entire day. And I was like, oh, okay, we're drawing hands today, and I would just draw these hands. And my life drawing teacher was like, you should put these in your portfolio. These are really good. And I'm like, oh, okay. So, and the problem is I can't, like, if somebody were to ask me, how do you draw hands? How can I get better at drawing hands? My answer would be like, I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry. I have no advice for you. I have this arm a little bit too low. I'll move it in a second. Why not draw Sailor Miku? I mean, we can do that. Should we give her like the Sailor Moon Fuku instead? With the Miku colors? Should we do that? It's better. This is actually, should be here. There we go. There we go. Like that. Like that. Yeah, that's good. Sailor Miku? Yeah, okay, let's do it. Well, oops. First we have to actually draw her, then we'll do it. Oops. I was gonna ask that on Patreon. Yeah, I'm really sorry. I genuinely don't have advice on how to get, like, how to be better at drawing hands, simply because despite me not being great at it today, it's never really been something I've struggled with, so I've never had to problem solve it. It's not something I've ever had to sit down and like really problem solve. Why is this difficult? How can I make it easier? You know? But yeah, as I was saying, so the Mario movie is one thing. I'm a little concerned because it's been 2 months since the movie's been out, so I'm not entirely sure how good it is in terms of, I guess, algorithm-wise. So that was one concern. The other concern is, like I said, I would like to do Daikon 4. I'm just worried that it's a bit too niche of a subject to really help the forward momentum of the channel, even though it's a topic that I do want to do eventually. I was just thinking of doing it soon because it's the 40th anniversary of Daikon 4. So that's another thing. It's a little bit, this finger shape's not great. You heard Elemental was a disaster? I actually do want to cover Elemental, but not as a film. I was thinking of covering I was going to do a video essay, or I am going to do a video essay, and the title of the video essay is going to be The Pixar Problem, because I think I have a lot to say about the method in which Pixar makes their films and the accidental typecasting. Like, they've pigeonholed themselves into a very specific mold. And you know how you will often see comments on YouTube whenever Pixar comes up? There'll be like a copy-paste meme where people would be like, oh, Pixar movies are like, what if toys had feelings? What if insects had feelings? What if Scotland had feelings? What if your feelings had feelings? Like, that's the meme. But the problem is Pixar has inadvertently created this reputation where they have to make emotionally charged movies. Like, they have to. That is what people expect. And how that expectation has basically kneecapped their ability to make movies, because there's this expectation of what they are supposed to have in their movies. Because I think that would be an interesting topic to discuss and look at. Because I can't do a video on Elemental just on its own, mostly because I need a clean copy of the movie that I need to find. And the copies I can find at the moment are just like cams, and I can't do... Oh, her hand's really big. I can't do a video like that with cam footage quality. That's just, that's not okay. There we go. It's better. Twist it a little bit. There we go. When's Daikon 1 and 2? Daikon 1. When was Daikon 1? I don't actually know. I think Daikon 1 was late 70s. No, it must have been early 70s or late 60s. Daikon 2, I think, also was like late 60s or early 70s. Not sure. I know you're making a joke, but there's like actually an answer to that question. I think this arm's a little bit long. Bring it down a little bit. There we go. I've also cut off this part of it, so I want to see if I erase this, will she look strange if I do it this way? Yes, she will. I'm gonna have to shave this down a bit. Otherwise, it just doesn't look great. Because I've put this arm here. Yeah, that's better. Okay, I am gonna have to bring a reference up for her hair, which isn't super detailed, but I want to make sure I don't make any stupid mistakes. Because I think she has the ponytails. I don't think she has like a bun that attaches the ponytails to her head like Sailor Moon does. I know she has the square... What are they? The square things that like hold her hair in place. She's got that. So I just want to double check. Go here. Go to Vocaloid. Where's a good one to use for reference? Check this one. Nah, it's a bit too busy. Wait, hold on. Yeah, that'll work. Bring this in here so you guys can see what I'm looking at. Okay. Yeah, see, her ponytails just kind of come out of her head. Okay. Damn, is Daikon 1 and 2 lost media? No, Daikon 1 and 2, I don't know if they had animated intros. Because, okay, what Daikon 4 is what we know the intro anime as. But what Daikon actually is the name of the convention. Like, the convention itself is called Daikon. It's literally Dai, which is big, and Kon for convention. And it was held in Osaka 4 times, and on the 4th time it was held in Osaka, that's when they had the promotional intro. And they had a promotional animated intro for Daikon 3, and I think Daikon 1 and 2, I don't know if they had video intros, and if they did, I think they might have been like live action fan films, not animation. They sold Laserdisc at Daikon 4 to cover costs. Had no license for official releases. Yeah, you can't... Oops. Sorry, dropped my phone. You can't legally buy Daikon 4. Like, there is no legal release of Daikon 4. Which is why you can find so many copies of it on YouTube. Being unofficially released and them not having the copyright to actually release it has inadvertently made that film very easy to preserve, because Gainax can't, like, copyright strike you if you release, like, an AI upscaled version of it, because they don't own the copyright to their own film. On the topic of weird anime hairstyles, I've been looking at concept art for Iris from Pokemon Black and White 2. It basically shows how to do her hairstyle, and I wish I had the hair for it. My hair has been an absolute disaster lately. My avatar on YouTube, that hair is only a very slight exaggeration. And with the rain and the humidity, it's not been good for me lately. Anime law states that you need a weird hairstyle to play a children's card game. This is true. It's illegal to play a children's card game if you don't have a really cool hairstyle. It's just the way it works. Handshake me in Infinity Train? Ugh. I don't even know what Infinity Train's copyright status is. Like, I genuinely don't. Because the thing is, here's the thing. If you don't know Daikon 4. Daikon 4 is set to the song Twilight by Electric Light Orchestra. But Gainax, they weren't called Gainax yet, but Gainax, who made Daikon 4, did not have the licensing rights to use that song. And by the time it came to releasing the film at the convention, they didn't have any money to pay for licensing rights. So they released the film and they just hoped that Electric Light Orchestra, like, wouldn't notice. Like, they just hoped the police wouldn't rush the stage and arrest them. Like, that's the problem. It's not that they don't own the rights to the film. They own the rights to the characters and everything. But they don't own the rights to the film because they never had the licensing rights to use Twilight by Electric Light Orchestra. That's why it's in copyright limbo. Oh, they didn't have licensing rights for the characters, you're right. They have licensing rights to the character technically, but she is wearing a Playboy bunny outfit and they don't have the copyright from Playboy to use the Playboy bunny outfit. So it's a big mess in terms of copyright. But like I said, that's actually enabled the film to be preserved a lot better, because now with AI upscaling, so many people have AI upscaled the anime and there's nothing Gainax can do about it. They can't take down the AI upscales at all because they don't own the film technically. What was your first anime? Oh, that's a difficult question. There's a few, like I can boil it down to like 2 or 3. Do you want, like, anime where I knew it was anime, or do you want anime when I watched it and just thought it was, like, a cartoon? Because those are 2 different answers. peak 80s nonsense, yeah, absolutely ridiculous. It's kind of why I want to do a video on it, just because it's an insane story. And like the making of Daikon 4 is also insane. They ordered too many paint colors. They ended up ordering more paint colors than they could possibly use in the film, which is why they then didn't have money to pay for the music rights. And they were like finishing the film the morning of the convention. Like, it was pure insanity. And I just think it's funny, and I think it's a very heartwarming story of how this random fan-made film with like all these ridiculous reasons for why it almost didn't work, like how it went on to completely change the anime industry permanently. And I just think that's very cool, and I thought it would make for a cool video. Because a lot of people, I know that Mother's Basement covered Daikon 4, but he mainly talked about the film itself, like what it looks like, what it's referencing. He didn't really talk about the insanity behind it. Like, he didn't talk about the paint colors. He didn't talk about the fact that they didn't, I think he might have mentioned they didn't have the rights to Electric Light Orchestra, but he mainly talked about the film, which I would too. I would talk about the film, but what's interesting to me is the insanity behind it. Like the pure like, oh well, we don't have rights to this, we'll just use it anyway, and like, oops, we ordered too many paint colors, now we can't buy the license. And like, oh dear, the convention is this morning and we haven't finished the film yet. Gainax and wasting their budget. Name a better duo. I think I asked my first anime I thought was just a cartoon, literally Pokemon. Not actually, because I'm a little bit older. By the time Pokemon came out, I already knew what anime was, thanks to VHS rentals and stuff. Like, I'd rented anime from that, so I knew Pokemon was an anime. But anime I didn't know was anime and just thought it was a cartoon was, if you live in South Africa, you know Heidi. That's the quintessential one. Most people in South Africa don't even know that Heidi is an anime. It was made in 1977 by Isao Takahata, who obviously went on to join Ghibli. And it was part of World Masterpiece Theatre. And it's never had an English dub, which is very strange. I don't think it's ever had an official English release. It has had an English release, but not in America or England. It's had an English release in, I think, Singapore. But that's like every South African has seen Heidi because it has an Afrikaans dub, see? Because South Africa only got TV in 1977 and it was looking for programming, and it needed programming for a child audience. So they could buy the rights to Heidi, which they then dubbed into Afrikaans. So most South Africans, like most of them, their first anime ever would be Heidi. But apart from that, my other first anime would be Samurai Pizza Cats. Like, that would be the other one. Before I knew what anime was. Have you ever seen Rankin and Bass 1977 Hobbit movie? Or their version of The Last Unicorn? The art style is always fascinating to me, especially knowing some animators helped make Studio Ghibli. I have seen The Last Unicorn multiple times. I own it on DVD and VHS. I bought the DVD when I was in Comic-Con one year. I bought it from the author, actually. But the Hobbit movie I've only seen once, and I saw it on like an online watch party. It's very interesting. It's an exceptionally interesting movie. And somebody said in the watch party that they wondered if the Hobbit movies wouldn't have been more interesting if they had gone the route of the animated version where it's a musical. Because there are a lot of songs in the original Hobbit book. And yes, the first Hobbit has like the Misty Mountains, like that song, but it's not a musical. And it's just interesting to wonder, well, what if they had just made it a full-blown musical? And not like a Broadway musical. I mean, like specifically how the animated movie is a musical. The other movie I know of, I don't know if it's a Rankin and Bass movie, but another movie that's in a similar art style, animation-wise, is Flight of Dragons. That is also a really interesting film. G.I. Joe is technically an anime because it was animated by Toei. It was even referenced in Fist of the North Star. Yeah, but then you get into like the messy debate of what counts as an anime, because you could also say that about like Real Ghostbusters, which I think was animated by TMS. I'm not sure. And there's like so many cartoons of the 80s which were outsourced to Japan, where you could be like, oh, well, technically this is an anime and technically that is an anime. And then you get to the point where you get to Scooby-Doo and you're like, well, technically Scooby-Doo is an anime because Scooby-Doo, the character, was designed by the Japanese studio, you know, and it becomes a big mess if you start talking about it in those terms. BTAS, made by TMS. The Sonic X Team animated Ghostbusters. Made by Japanese for Japanese. That's an anime. I think that's a good way to go about it. Yes, that's like a good way to think of it. If it's made by a Japanese studio and it was meant for distribution to a mainly Japanese audience, I think that's a good way to classify what technically falls within anime. Because otherwise you get into arguments like, well, technically a hot dog is a sandwich, and what was the other one? No, technically a hot dog is a taco. Like, you start getting into that kind of argument in terms of like pedantic nitpicking. Hair just ends in points, right? They kind of go very thick at the bottom. Okay. What did Sode Solde? Did you hear about Warner Brothers rebooting Batman again? George Clooney is supposedly coming back. That doesn't really shock me. I mean, Batman is a major cash cow for Warner Brothers. I'm sure that if he was still with us, they would have gotten Kevin Conroy. I think George Clooney isn't a terrible choice. He can do the voice. Just because he wasn't a badly made Batman movie doesn't mean that he was a bad Batman, if that makes sense. I'm just kind of thickening up her hair here because it gets kind of thicker at the bottom, and I forgot that part. Here we go. I'll do it here as well. My personal opinion is that it needs to be made in Japan, although that's mainly because I did a really bad presentation on anime in 4th grade, and that's what my sources at the time said. I mean, fair enough. There we go, that's better. Okay. Do that. There we go. Okay, now we can do the Fuku. Let me just erase her hair where we don't see it. There we go. Okay, now I can see what's going on. Change this, go this. She has like squares. I'm going to give her the Sailor Moon Fuku. I just want to like include the things which are like quintessential to Miku's design, like the squares around her pigtails and her microphone. Because you can redesign a character, but if you're going to redesign a character, you have to kind of identify what parts of their original design is core to their character design. I mean, that even Velma got that correctly, just to bring that show up again. Velma at least understood that Velma needs to be wearing an orange sweater and glasses, and Daphne needs to have red hair and a purple outfit. Like, they understood how to adapt the designs, at least, so that they are recognizably those characters. That is one thing they got correct. They didn't get much correct, but that was one of the things they actually got right. Might make this bigger. Ah, it's okay. If they make Batman with George Clooney, I hope they also bring back the same director. Unfortunately, I think Joel Schumacher, I think he might have passed away in the meantime. from old age or so. Let's do this. She is wearing a tie. Should we give her the Sailor Moon bow at the front, or should we give her the tie that she has in her original design? Joel Schumacher died in 2020. Oh, I didn't realize it was that soon. That's because anime is literally just a shortening of animation, according to its etymology. Yes, anime, it's you know, in Japanese, animation, so it's anime. The bow? Okay. Just want to see her design. Okay. We'll just do the circle. Let's erase this. This is why I used the kneaded eraser in Clip Studio Paint, because I can still kind of see where my original lines were. So if I want to redraw something, I'm not left completely in the dark as to where it was originally. Comes up like this. There we go. Okay, and then this comes like this, and this comes this way. There we go. If you could give Olive from High Guardian Spice a new outfit, what would it look like? That's a good question. I'm not the best at character design, like coming up with brand new unique designs, but I would try and adapt the concept of a magical girl rather than just copying what's her name? Is she just called Miu? Miu Ichigo, that's I don't know why I blanked on that. Instead of just copying Miu Ichigo's outfit wholesale, I would try and do something that's similar but inspired by, because the thing is, even if people can recognize, oh, that's inspired by Miu Ichigo, if they had just changed it enough, it would be fine. It's just that they leaned into it so heavily that it became unmistakably, that's just Miu Ichigo with a palette swap. Did you see Hell of a Boss Season 2? It's fun but pretty weird structurally. I still need to get to that as well. I wasn't super into, what was her thing? Has-Been Hotel. And because I wasn't super into Has-Been Hotel, I haven't really been keeping up with Hell of a Boss. It's not that there's anything bad about them. It's not that there's anything wrong with them. It's just not really my style. Just trying to get some reference here so I'm not making stupid mistakes, so I can talk and draw at the same time without my brain overloading. We'll use this one, it's fine. There we go. Oops. Oh, save. That might be a good move. Hold on. If you're drawing along, remember to save your work. There we go. Blasphemy. Has-Been is trash. Good animation. I don't know if I would call it trash. It's just not, it's not my thing, if that makes sense. It's literally just personal preference. So this would come up to here. There we go. When I get to the video on Sailor Moon Cosmos, when that comes out, and if we're still reaching the right Patreon tier, we are 100% going to be drawing Cosmos in the art live stream following that. Oh, hey Hunter, thank you for the super chat. How about an anime take on Velma? That's actual horror inspired by Corpse Party. Heavily character driven and super deep. Yes, but then you've got the same problem. There's the alert. You've got the same problem where it's like, well, why is this Velma? Why is this Scooby-Doo related? Because the thing is, I love Corpse Party. I think Corpse Party is fantastic. It just kind of becomes then the same problem of, yes, but what makes it Scooby-Doo? Although I hear the Corpse Party anime wasn't good. I think a lot of what makes Corpse Party is its sprite animation. Like the pixel art is kind of what makes Corpse Party as good as it is. Did you hear about the art YouTuber Mepity? She's really cool. No, I'm not familiar with her. I do find it amusing in your breakdowns. You are so concerned about the length of your videos, even after referencing Mauler and EFAP. Yeah, I've kind of chilled out more about being concerned that they're too long, because I think I've just kind of made peace with the fact that that's just the kind of content I make. Because I was worried at first that they were too long and I'm rambling, I need to cut them down, I have to make them shorter. But I really enjoy I enjoy watching long form videos, and I can never really find where to trim the video to make it shorter, because every thought I have leads into another thought. Like, it all strings together. It's not that they are things I'm thinking or speaking about which are irrelevant. Like, everything leads up into everything else. So it's really difficult to be like, oh, I can cut this out. Okay, I'm going to give her the Super Sailor Moon caps because I like them and I think they're cute. Every time you say in a video that you don't want to keep rambling because the video is already too long, I'm like, no, that's why I'm here. Well, that's good to know at least. Long videos tend to do well on YouTube in a meta sense, because oftentimes with a long video, people will click out and then click back in when they have time to keep watching it. And that actually counts as 2 views. So long videos are also kind of better for you in the long run with YouTube. I was just concerned that I was wasting people's time or I was being long-winded for no reason. And like I said, I've just kind of made peace with the fact with, oh, well, that's just kind of what the content is going to be, I'm afraid. Long videos are great for someone like me to listen to while I do chores. Yeah, same. Like, I listen to a lot of long form videos when I'm drawing, usually, or when I'm working. And I need something to take up a lot of time while I'm doing my thing, that I don't have to keep looking for something new to watch. You know, I can just let it play and carry on with my own thing. Because there's nothing worse for killing flow than busy working and doing something, and then every 20 minutes or half an hour you have to find something new to watch. You know, it's maddening. So long form content is really great for that as well. Have you seen a certain magical index or related series? I don't think so. I'm not giving her the Sailor Moon gloves. I'm actually going to keep her Hatsune Miku, these arm things. They're sleeves, but they're detached. I'm going to keep those because it kind of ties in with the Sailor Moon gloves, but it's a unique feature of her own character design, so it would be cool to keep. Okay, time for the skirt. So it comes up like this. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Yeah, this year they officially cancelled that gritty Powerpuff Girl reboot where Buttercup and Bubbles are semi-porn stars. Cancelled probably because of the writer's strike, and I'm so glad. Yeah, you know what? That's for the best. It's honestly for everyone's sanity. That's the best move. Mostly because, of course, if they actually made that, I would have to cover it because my name, CPuff, is from when I was like 12, I think, and I was very into the Powerpuff Girls. So if they did make the Powerpuff Girls thing, I would have to cover it. Like, there's no way to get around that. So I'm just glad they did it so I can just not have to watch whatever it was, because that was just, it was sounding terrible, just like the absolute worst. Honestly, it sounded a lot like what Velma ended up being, except like 10 times worse, because it was trying to be like edgy, but kind of the same vibe in a way. Kane Pixels got funding to make a Backrooms movie. That would be interesting. Yeah, especially if Kane Pixels is doing it, because Kane Pixels' approach to the Backrooms is a lot more interesting than a lot of fan games and interpretations of the Backrooms, because Kane Pixels' entire concept is that he was tired of horror movies where the government was willfully being horrible on purpose. And he was like, well, what if the evil organization or government or whatever it was, what if they were just stupid and didn't know what they had, and they're trying to fix it? Like, they're trying to fix their awful mistake. And that's kind of what the Backrooms is based on. And honestly, that's just a lot more interesting in terms of story. Like, oops, we fucked up. Now we have to deal with it. Anything but an edgy Powerpuff Girls? Yeah, that was in development for such a long time. And then the script got leaked, and it was like the worst thing ever. There's a few YouTube videos out about them, like people reading through the script, and it's terrible. It's genuinely awful. I think Mojo Jojo got like stabbed in prison or something. Like, it's just genuinely the worst garbage you've ever heard. What are your shoes like, Miku? Ah, she's got thigh highs. See, I'm trying to incorporate a little bit of her original design instead of just putting her into a recolored Sailor Moon outfit. I think that's good. We can get to inking. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. Oh, she's got this like lanyard. I'm gonna add it just because... Oops. I don't know what it is, but I think it's cute. There we go. 90 minutes of build-up to the punchline that the CIA doesn't know what the hell's going on. Yeah. Honestly, that would be really funny. I don't think that's what he's gonna do, but it would be really funny if he did. Okay, anything else I am forgetting? Oh, her thing. And what kind of nonsense is on it? Actually, it doesn't really have this, so I'm gonna take that away. And I know her hair square things have a cyan band on them. There we go. Okay. Let's put everything in a folder so I can control the opacity without worrying too much, and that I can have a better idea of what's going on in my layers. No, not in there. Above it. There we go. Turn this down. Wario is Hatsune Miku. Please don't. I don't need that level of psychic damage in my life. Indy 5 is bombing hard and I'm all here for it. Is Indy 5 even out? Like, has that actually released? I will say I did see Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in theaters, and that was like genuinely very good. And I haven't watched a Marvel movie, not counting Guardians of the Galaxy. What was the last one I saw? It might have been the original Avengers movie. Like, when did that come out? Like 2010 or something? And apart from that, I've just been watching the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. And Guardians 3 is genuinely a very, very good movie. Indy 5 is in theaters, apparently. It is theoretically in theaters. It just came out. Okay, I'll have to keep an eye out what people say. Oh, I know. I want to flip this. Make my life easier. Waluigi gives you a fancy rose. Do you accept? Of course. Anything for Waluigi. Waluigi is a Tumblr sexy man, right? Like, if he isn't, he would be an honorary one, but is he actually one? Because the qualifications for a Tumblr sexy man is that it doesn't have to be ironic. Like, you can't be a Tumblr sexy man ironically. So does he count? James Gunn is the only good director left at Marvel. Yeah, and they tried to fire him because he made like off-colored tweets like, what, 10, 12 years ago? As if he didn't make Romeo and Juliet. Flash is bombing horribly. I saw, just before we went live, I think I saw somebody had a video up talking about it just being awful, but I was getting ready for the stream, so I haven't been able to catch up on that. And I think I was just like, oh, I guess it's out then. Can't be ironic. Bro, how is Sans a Tumblr sexy man? Dude, you have obviously not been in the Undertale fandom as long as I have. Trust me, it is not ironic. Disney is thinking about letting James Gunn go. I mean, he is in DC Warner Brothers. That's their competition, maybe. But they fired him because he got cancelled on Twitter for making weird tweets like 10 years ago. Again, as if he didn't make Romeo and Juliet. I think if the people who tried to cancel him for making bad tweets, if they saw Romeo and Juliet, like their heads would literally explode. Romeo and Juliet, if you are unaware, it's made by Troma Pictures, the guys who did Toxic Avenger. Spoilers, at the end of Romeo and Juliet, Romeo, who is Romeo and Juliet, not only do they live, like they don't die, they find out their biological brother and sister. But then their response to finding that out is to literally say, and I quote, "Fuck it, we've taken it this far." And then at the end of the movie, they end up having horribly malformed mutant children together. And it pans to credits over the face of like Shakespeare just laughing himself hysterically. And that's how the movie ends. I think if people were trying to cancel James Gunn for making bad tweets, if they saw that movie, like they would just go into cardiac arrest and pass away at some of the content in that film. Romeo is Romeo. I mean, I don't know. I wanted to call him Romeo, and I'm like, wait, that's not his name. His name is Tromeo. Also, Romeo and Juliet, the person who plays the minstrel at the start of the play that, like, introduces the characters in the Romeo plus Juliet movie, it was done by a news broadcaster. In Romeo and Juliet, it's done by Lemmy from Motorhead. Like, Lenny from Motorhead does the introduction to Romeo and Juliet. It's absolutely incredible. You have like Lenny from Motorhead quoting Shakespeare as he's walking down New York. We need another big budget Macbeth that will save Hollywood. Maybe. As long as they don't... Oh, I want to say as long as they don't try and modernize it. But again, Romeo plus Juliet is such a good movie. I can't even say don't modernize it, because modernizing Romeo and Juliet was one of the best things that Hollywood ever did when they made Romeo plus Juliet. Even though they aged up Juliet from the play, which kind of did away with a ton of the subtext of the play, which goes into the fact that she's being forced into the role of wife, even though she's 13. And that's a big part of the play because it's not normal. And even Juliet herself is like, dude, I'm 13 years old, but I can kind of understand why Hollywood might not want that to be part of their movie. Because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable by design, but I don't think Hollywood would want to go there. I think they just want to avoid that topic and focus mainly on how destructive the feud between the two houses is instead. Which, I mean, fair enough. It just means that there's a certain layer of social commentary that's completely lost by aging her up to be legal. Oh, good. I have seen them. Yeah, I've seen Romeo plus Juliet. It's a great movie. Juliet was 13. Yeah. And what's interesting is Shakespeare, he never states the ages of his characters in his other plays. Like, it's not something he does where he says, oh, this character is this years old. This character is this years old. The only character he really does that to is Juliet. And that's because her being 13 is a major plot point of the play. It's supposed to make the audience go, this is weird and creepy. Why are they forcing her to do this? Like, that is the point of that. Yes, but Romeo plus Juliet was made by someone who gave a crap. It's true. Luckily, because Shakespeare has been around for like 600 years, even if you make a bad Shakespeare adaptation, it's not like it damages Shakespeare, because in a few years, somebody else will just make another adaptation. In 50 years, somebody will just make another adaptation. It's one of those things that there'll be remakes upon remakes no matter what. So even if there's like a bad one, it's not the end of the world. I went to the theater and walked out because of how awful the modern reimagining of the play was. Yeah. Like I said, I would say don't modernize it, but Romeo plus Juliet is just so good, I can't say that anymore. Isn't there like a... What is that one play? Anthony Hopkins plays in it, a Shakespeare play. I think it's also modernized, and I haven't watched it. I hear it's extremely messed up. But I believe it's also a very good film. And the other thing is, like, you can't say, oh, don't modernize it, because then you kind of send the message that you have to do it in old-timey England, and you can't adapt the story in any unique way, and then we wouldn't have Kurosawa's entire career, you know. So many of Kurosawa's films are literally just Shakespeare plays adapted to take place in feudal Japan. I don't know if it's a direct adaptation, but I know Ran is... It's kind of King Lear, but not... Throne of Blood, I believe, is Macbeth, if I remember correctly. And I know there's another one he did. King Lear? Yeah. What are your thoughts on West Side Story? I have a hard time with West Side Story because I love musicals, but I don't like the style of music in West Side Story, which is a problem because it's a musical. So if I don't like the music style of West Side Story, it's very difficult to enjoy the film because I don't like the songs. But again, this is not a criticism on the film, it's just personal preference. As far as the Romeo and Juliet adaptation, it kind of works. You know what, it actually does. I'm going to say it does, because it brings in an interesting extra subtext, which is to do with racism, and that does actually add to the story without making it like distracting. Putting in the racism between, I believe they're Irish, and the Puerto Rican gangs, like, that brings a really interesting dynamic to the story which wasn't there before. I just unfortunately don't enjoy the music. King Lear was Ran? Oh, I thought so. I know it's not a direct adaptation though. It is an adaptation, but it's very loose. They could start to adapt some German dramas. Mary Stuart by Schiller would fit perfectly in current climate. I'm not familiar with that one. But I do admit I'm not super familiar with a lot of German film. I know I mentioned M in my latest video, which I kind of felt silly referencing, you know, M, this extremely heralded important movie to the history of cinema, and referencing it while talking about Velma. It felt really silly, but at the same time I can't help the way my brain makes like what my brain connects topics to, because when I reference things, it's genuinely because that's what I'm thinking about. It's not that I'm looking for things to make references to. That's just where my brain naturally goes. So even though it's this, you know, it's this trash adult comedy show, Velma, that's the connection my brain made, was to the movie M. And I think it's because, you know, M is also about a serial killer in a town and unlikable characters. But I did feel a little bit silly. I'm like, I don't know. People might accuse me of trying to be like, try hard, or to prove I'm like, I don't know, into film or something. I don't know. I tend to overthink things where I'm worried people will perceive me as trying to be performative. When, no, this is genuinely just how my brain works. There's like something wrong with me, I swear. Hey Leon. Never even heard of M. It genuinely sounds like a fascinating movie. It's very good. Like, genuinely, M is a really good film. It's upsetting, but it's a really good film. Thing is, though, even though it deals with child murder, and within the film that's all that they discuss, it's in the film it's child murder. It's nothing beyond that. But they tend to focus more on the psychological effect of the serial killer more than they do on the gruesomeness of the crime, right? It's not really about the crime, it's about how the crime affects the town, which makes it a little bit more palatable than a lot of other serial killer movies where there will be a lot of focus on how horrific the crime is. So that is one thing about M. If anybody's like worried about watching it because it deals with a child murderer, due to when it was made, it is more palatable because of that simple fact. Hey Linstar, love your reviews of terrible TV shows. Thank you. I'm hoping to do something a little bit more positive. Like I said, maybe the Mario movie, if people are still interested in that, even though it'll be a little bit late. Quick question, how did you come to the name C-Puff Person? C-Puff was when I was 12 and I was really into the Powerpuff Girls. And because all their names started with B, I was like, well, I'm like the not as good Powerpuff Girl. So I'm like the C Powerpuff Girl. And then the last name was when the internet started asking you a first name and last name for getting things like emails. I didn't know what to put as a last name because I grew up on the internet where it was a bad idea to give people your real name. So I just put Person, I think because it also starts with a P, and I was like, it's good enough. Your reference to M felt like a genuine example and reference, and not a see how smart and educated I am forced insert like some people end up doing. I'm glad, because I am worried sometimes that people think I'm being performative when I reference weird things. It's like, no, that's genuinely just what my interests are and I can't help it. You're an S tier Powerpuff Girl to us? Aw, thank you. But yeah, that's where the name comes from. So you were Bliss before Bliss in the PBG was a thing? Kind of. Except like my 13-year-old self-insert Powerpuff Girl, I don't think she actually had any powers. I think the joke was that she was terrible. Like, she didn't have any powers, and she was called C-Puff. And like, even I had like a Sailor Moon version of the character, which was basically just me. And the Sailor Moon version of the character, instead of a wand, she just literally had like a stick, like it was a log. There was nothing fancy about it, and the joke was just, again, that she was terrible. Do you know why M is called M? Yes. It is because apparently it had a different name, but there's a scene within the movie where one of the characters writes the letter M on his palm, and there's a shot where he reaches towards the camera with the M written on his hand. And the director, I think it's Fritz Lange, I'm bad with names, Fritz Lange liked that shot so much, he realized that it's a very striking image, so he named the movie after that shot, and then replicated the shot on the posters. You love the name? That's hilarious. Yeah. And the joke was she wasn't like down on herself or upset or like, oh no, I suck. It wasn't like self-deprecating or anything. It was just genuinely, it was funny. You know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm so terrible, I suck at everything I do. No, it's like, no, dude, it's just funny. That's all. As a PBG fan, what's your opinion on PBG 2016? I didn't really watch it because I heard bad things about it, and all the clips I saw, I was like, nah, not interested. I don't really use the word cringe in a way where people use it on the internet. Like, I don't cringe at people who are furries or have like Mary Sue characters. I don't find that as being cringe, but I find the use of memes in the Powerpuff Girl reboot, like, that genuinely makes me cringe. It is so embarrassing. A self-deprecating self-insert? Yeah, I guess it is kind of rare. Like I said, it wasn't even about being deprecating. It was just because I thought it was funny. Like, I genuinely thought it was hilarious. Also, and this, I guess this is a bit of a humble brag, so forgive me for that, but I don't really have self-esteem issues, if that makes sense. So making fun of myself, even as a kid, it was a lot easier because I didn't see it as self-deprecating or like putting myself down, because that's just not something I've ever really struggled with. So it's a lot easier to, as a kid, make a really lame self-insert that's really bad, because it didn't make me feel bad and it didn't make me self-conscious, because again, I just thought it was funny. Like, that was my main concern, was, is this hilarious? I was a big fan of the Angry Beavers growing up. I don't know if that's obvious or not. Like, that's my style of humor, even as a child. Still upset about Miss Bellum? Yeah, like, that is the most insane thing to me, is they just didn't understand the point behind Miss Bellum. Which is a problem if you don't understand the cartoon you're making a reboot out of. That's kind of a problem. It's the same problem Velma had, except I think in Velma's case, there was a willful ignorance about it. Like, they didn't want to know about these characters. They didn't have any interest in learning about these characters. With the Powerpuff Girls reboot, it was just genuine ignorance. It wasn't like willful ignorance. It was just they genuinely didn't know what they were doing. I don't know what's worse. Is it worse to be ignorant about the thing you're adapting, or is it worse to have absolutely no interest in learning about the thing you're adapting? I have a major panic attacks when I screw up in social settings where I don't want to be seen as an awful screw up. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't have panic attacks, but I think I have performance anxiety to a certain degree. I say as I'm on my live stream drawing in front of a bunch of people. No, but I mean, like, here's an interesting thing, right? If you put me on stage in front of a bunch of people and tell me to talk to them, I can do that. I'm nervous, but I can do it. If I'm playing a video game and there is a part of the video game where your character has to stand on stage, I become terrified. I get such secondhand embarrassment. I can't do that part of the video game. And even when I watch Let's Plays, I can't watch that part of the Let's Play because I get such secondhand embarrassment and like fear of screwing up. I don't know. what do you call that when in real life you're like, oh no, it's okay, it's stressful, but I can do it. But then in video game form, you're like, I literally can't do it. It's the most stressful, upsetting thing in the entire world. And again, I'm not putting it on. I'm being quite honest. Like, I find it terrifying in a video game. It's really bad. My art is very nice. Thank you. You think willful ignorance is absolutely worse? I guess so. I think one is more insulting than the other one, for sure. Performance anxiety? Yeah, but why? If I'm on stage myself in the real world, I'm fine. I'm stressed, but I'm fine. In video games, it's like, nah, man, can't do it. I think there's a part in The Witcher 3 where you have to be on stage and give a performance. Yes, you do. You do it with the theater group. And that was like the most horrible part of that entire game for me because I was so stressed out and panicky about it. I think because in a video game, people will boo you if you do badly and they will like actively call you names and say you suck, whereas in the real world people are actually far less likely to do that. People are more likely just to politely listen to you even if you're doing a bad job, whereas in the video game, because there's a fail state, it's much more stressful because the reality of getting booed is a lot more realistic as a thing that can possibly happen. Virtual stage fright? I guess so. What's your opinion on the art style of the Sailor Moon manga? I really, really like it a lot. I prefer the anime. I tend to prefer the anime in most ways, but I really enjoy the manga's art style. And Naoko Takeuchi, she, not based, but she was very much inspired by fashion art, like the art you would see fashion designers make when they are designing an outfit. That's what inspired the art of Sailor Moon. That's why they have such long legs and slender bodies. It's because they're literally based on fashion drawings. And I really like her art. It's even beyond just the way she draws figures, the way she incorporates a lot of the more dreamlike elements that you see in shoujo, and the way she uses those elements. And some of the expressions she draws are like really, really emotional and like touching. And even though she has a very looser art style, it's not super structured. She has certain body language that she has in her characters in certain scenes, which is just gorgeous. It's really nice and good. High Guardian, I think you mean High Guardian Spice, has likable things out of context. Velma does not. This is true. I ended up getting a weird sense of attachment to the High Guardian Spice characters. I disliked almost all of them, but it's kind of like, if you don't like cats, I don't have a problem with cats, but if you are a person and you don't like cats, you don't hate cats, and if you end up with a cat, even though you don't like cats, you kind of grow attached to it, even though you don't really like cats. That's kind of the relationship I had with High Guardian Spice. Velma did not inspire any positive feelings in me regarding the characters. And I think that's also why I want to talk about Daikon, because I think it would be nice to talk about the love of animation and like the respect one should give animation as an art form. I like Fred from Velma. He's the only one with an actual arc. Yeah, he is. My only thing is with Fred is if he was in any other show, I would also hate him. He's only a good character in comparison to how terrible everyone else is. That's the only reason he's kind of tolerable. I think also because, you know, you tend to get a little bit of defiance, and you can tell this character was designed for you to hate him without giving good reasons as to why, and then you become defiant because you feel like the show is trying to manipulate you. So you're like, well, I'm not gonna hate him because you haven't given me good reasons and you're trying to manipulate me and you're doing it badly. So I'm going to like this character out of spite. High Guardian Spice feels like the product of someone who wanted to create the product, just messed up badly. Velma, I don't know, feels so full of hate. Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. Like, High Guardian Spice is not good, but I think the people who made it did want to make it. And I think the inexperienced artists and storyboarders and all of that, I think they genuinely wanted to do a good job, regardless of how much they succeeded or not. Whereas Velma, the animation is pretty good. The character designs are actually really good. Well, most of them. There are a few that are not so great. But I don't think the people in charge cared. Like, they didn't care about it. It's like, what's her name? Mindy? It's like Mindy kind of just wanted to have an animated show under her belt. She wanted to be like, I think the man's name is Steve Colbert. Like, he has a bunch of really bad animated shows. But the fact is, he has a bunch of animated shows. And it's like Mindy was like, I want to have an animated show that I made too. Like, she wanted that on her resume. That's kind of the vibe it gives me. Somebody needs to write a Velma High Guardian Spice crossover fanfic. Oof, I don't know. I wouldn't want to inflict Velma on the High Guardian Spice characters. I mean, they're not great characters, but they don't deserve Velma being inflicted on them. I see what you're doing. Fred, Gigi, and Olive. These three were good characters, honestly. Yeah, it's just very odd to me that they completely lost interest in Gigi after a while. They're like, okay, we're done with her. And I'm like, okay, I guess. Olive is pretty good too. I find it's not badly she's not badly voice acted, but I don't enjoy the way her character speaks. I don't know how to say it. Like, the way she leans on her words, I'm not a fan of how it sounds. It's not that she was badly acted, it's just I don't enjoy the way that character speaks, quite frankly. High Guardian Spice definitely felt like a dream project, but hopes and dreams alone don't make a good show. Velma was just an ego-stroking revenge fic against Scooby-Doo. Yeah, that's pretty much accurate. I think that's also what made High Guardian Spice infuriating, is because you've been given the opportunity to make your dream project and you squandered it. Whereas Velma, there was no ambition there to make anything good from the start. That's the word I was missing. Velma is a revenge fic, while High Guardian Spice is the baby project that was spoiled rotten. Yeah, pretty much. Oh, that's the other thing. I'm not going to do it next because I do want to do something positive first. But I am going to definitely make a video about Catra from the She-Ra new cartoon. Because I have an extreme amount of feelings about Catra, and negative feelings about how she was handled in the final season. And I actually really enjoyed the new She-Ra. I was a big fan of it as it was coming out. And then the last season is just so terrible on multiple levels that I got so furious by how badly it was handled that I had to like blacklist the word She-Ra on Tumblr so I didn't have to see people's posts about it, just because it infuriated me so much. But I think enough time has passed now where I'm no longer like angry about it, and I don't think it has the stands it used to when it first came out, where I feel like I can make a critical video of it without people like dogpiling me and telling me, oh, you just hate it because you hate women, or I don't know. I saw some horrible hot takes when it was at its peak popularity. People were saying that if you ship Entraptor with Zordak, that you were promoting child predation because Entraptor is shorter than Zordak. So if you ship those two characters, you were being a predator. Like, just the absolute worst hot takes you can possibly imagine. And I didn't have a YouTube channel at the time. But I think like that level of vitriol isn't really around anymore. I think the people who are still fans of She-Ra, like those hateful people, they've kind of moved on to other shows. So I think it's safe to be critical about it without like getting mass hatred for saying the show is badly written in its final season. Isn't Entraptor 35? Yeah, something like that. Yeah, she's in her 30s, yeah. But no, it's because she's short. Again, I'm not joking. I'm not saying that to be like belittling of the argument. That is literally the reason that was given by these people. The other horrible hot take was, oh, well, she's autistic coded, so it's predatory to ship her with Zordak, which is just, again, one of the most horrible hot takes I've ever heard in my life. Point is, those people have moved on to whatever the new hot show is to be problematic about and, like, seeing people hate mail about. So if I say, hey, here's all the reasons why Catra was squandered as a character, I am far less likely to have people just be very hostile. People might still disagree with me, and I mean, that's fine. I don't mind if people disagree with me. I just mean, like, you know, the kind of fandom, like, when Steven Universe was at its peak popularity, like, that level of vitriol and hatred and arguing and, like, hate campaigns. Because I do think it's an interesting topic to talk about. And it ties into a lot of a lot of shows and things that I am very attached to. Like, it ties into Utena, which I would like to do a video on Utena, but I think my head would literally explode if I tried. And I think I might talk about Rose of Versailles if I talk about Catra and She-Ra, because it ties into Utena, which ties into She-Ra. And there's very weird choices made in the final season that have nothing to do with Catra, that are just bad. Just bad decisions where I don't understand why they did it that way. But, like I said, I want to do something positive first, because I don't want to form a reputation as, oh, if you want to hear somebody tear something apart, you go to their channel. Even though I know that negativity, it does get more views on YouTube than positivity, one does have to have a bit of a balance, even if it doesn't get the amount of views, because otherwise you will you will grow into, like, just a hateful person. Where nothing is ever good enough and everything is always bad, and you don't like the direction anything ever goes in. And I mean, that's just kind of miserable. Both as a creator, but as well as an audience member, you do want to hear somebody who is critical say, this is objectively, this is what I consider to be a good movie or a good show. Like, I genuinely think this is a well-made show or film or whatever. You do want to hear somebody who is critical of media to give approval of something and be like, no, this is genuinely good. Yeah, you need to balance your alignment. A balance of positive and negative. Pick the neutral route. Unfortunately, not on YouTube, but like I said, I will do something more positive. I'm thinking of the Mario movie if people are interested in that. But as always, you can always, like, ask me, are you going to talk about this or are you going to talk about that on Tumblr or YouTube or whatever. Because the only reason I started talking about High Guardian Spice was somebody sent me an ask on Tumblr about it, and the only reason I did Velma is because somebody during a live mentioned how bad it was, and that's the only reason I these things were even on my radar. And like I said, I will talk about Elemental at some point in the larger scope of Pixar's problem with their reputation. I don't know, I enjoy negative videos. I mean, same. But one does have to have balance in one's life. You're the biggest Nintendo simp on the planet. Yeah, because I hear it's pretty good. Like, I hear it's not like it's going to set the world on fire, but it's genuinely not a bad movie. And like I said, it'd be interesting to watch it as somebody who has no nostalgia for Nintendo and somebody who barely interacts with Nintendo at all. It's good because it means I won't be sitting there going, oh, well, they got the color of that mushroom wrong, and that's not how it was depicted in Super Mario Galaxy, and that's not actually what that power-up does. Like, I won't be doing that kind of nitpicking, but I also won't be sitting there going, OMG, they referenced The 1,000-Year Door. I can't believe they did that just for the fans. Like, there won't be any of that. I'll just be watching it as a movie. I have seen the live-action Mario Brothers movie multiple times, though, because there's a riff tracks for it. I assume the animated one is better than the live-action one. Although Bob Hoskins, I mean, he was a pretty good Mario. Like, he genuinely was a good Mario. Hey, Sleepy. I think the Mario movie doesn't have any issues like that regardless. It's an improvement on video game movies, but it's more a fan service than it is a good story. See, that's why it'd be interesting to see it, especially because I'm also not a big Illumination fan. I mean, I don't really know. Is there anybody who's like a big Illumination fan? I mean, like, somebody who's not a mommy blogger and like really likes the Minions. Does Illumination even really have fans? You adore the live action movie. It's a very strange film. It kind of is. It is absolute insanity, but it has a very strange, like, terrible movie quality to it. In terms of like so bad it's good movies, that is a movie you can honestly put on and enjoy watching, even though it's not good. Hey, Troy. Animate Reviews likes Illumination? I guess so. I guess it's not like, their movies aren't offensively bad. So, I don't know. I was like, Illumination has Tumblr fans with the Lorax. Okay, yeah, good point. Good point. I forgot about the Lorax fandom. The Once-Live fandom. That's a very good point. Okay, I take back what I said. It might be funny to reference the Lorax in the Mario movie and like give everybody PTSD. It's like, hey, remember that? With the Zelda movie, I want DreamWorks to do it. I think DreamWorks might actually do a good job. I think Illumination owns DreamWorks. I think they bought them out. Not sure. They have to double check, but I believe hearing that. I believe I heard that at some point, I mean. There is a very good fan, let's say trailer, a fake trailer that came out way before Breath of the Wild, where somebody made like a fake trailer. What if there was a Legend of Zelda animated movie made by Ghibli? And that fan trailer has kind of ruined the concept of an animated Legend of Zelda movie for me, because if it doesn't look as good as that trailer, I'm going to be disappointed, because that trailer was that good. I might actually show it once we're done here. Because, I mean, why not, right? It's my channel, I can do what I want. It doesn't have any copyright music in it. Oh god, you keep bringing up Tumblr sexy men. You're gonna give me flashbacks to my build-up phase. Oh no. Catadora is toxic. Yeah, see, I want to talk about that, not so much because of shipping. That's not really what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the dynamic there and how weirdly handled it is in the final season, specifically because everything before the final season I'm actually a big fan of. Mostly because in the final season it's like they replaced the characters with completely different people. It's very strange. The ending of She-Ra by DreamWorks, I can't really trust them anymore. I can see that. Like I said, it's almost baffling. It's one of those things where you want to do like an interview with the people who made the show to find out what went wrong, because that's clearly something where something somewhere went wrong. I know some people don't like it at all and they hated it from the start, but I was genuinely enjoying it and I thought it was a genuinely well written show. And it's like they forgot how to write characters by the time they got to the final season. It's literally like, I don't know, did writers change? Did somebody leave? What happened? Because something must have happened. Shira PTSD? Yeah. Ketadora would work if the show wasn't insisting on them being Star Trek lovers, but two deeply disturbed individuals trauma bonding. Yeah, I was actually of the firm opinion, and I didn't know if they would have the guts to do it, and clearly they didn't. I felt that Catra, I don't want to say should, but in terms of writing, I feel like Catra should have died in the final season, because of the actions that Catra kept taking for the entirety of the seasons before that. Because Catra's entire character is about somebody reaches out to her and offers her a way out of her situation, and she continuously smacks that offer of help away. Not just from Adora, but from every single character who tries to help her. She smacks the chance away, and she wallows in her bitterness, and she ends up making her own life terrible, which she then blames on the other person. And she keeps doing it over and over again and becomes a worse and worse person because of it. On purpose, like in terms of good writing, she keeps doing that. And I was like, well, the logical conclusion for this character is that they put themselves in such a deep pit that they eventually end up dying for it, not because anybody did anything wrong except they themselves. And then they didn't do that. And I mean, they didn't have to kill her specifically, it's just they completely abandoned her character that they had for like the previous 4 seasons. And we ended up with a completely different character, and I was like, what happened? I mean, it's a problem a lot of creatives have with fan favorite sympathetic villains, especially if they are afraid of the backlash. They can be as monstrous as they want, but have to be forgiven. Yeah, but the problem is they didn't write her as a character that was leading up to that forgiveness. They wanted Zuko, but then they spent 4 out of the 5 seasons making Catra a worse and worse person, and then she and Adora kiss at the end. And that was it. It's like, listen, I know you guys are big fans of Avatar The Last Airbender, but did you actually watch Avatar The Last Airbender? Only lost 1 season with She-Ra. The season 1 finale felt like Friendship is Magic episode, where they rushed the We Are All Now Friends part and sent a rainbow beam to Nightmare Moon. Yeah, I can kind of see that. Before the final season came out, I told people just stick through the first season because it gets good afterwards. And now I can't even say that anymore because it gets very good afterwards, and then it just crashes and burns in the final season. You watched the Avatar movie by James Cameron. I thought you were going to say you've seen the Avatar movie by Shyamalan, and that's your only exposure to Avatar. And I was like, oh dear. Might I suggest Meta Runner as memory bleach from that Lovecraftian horror that is Velma? I think somebody else also mentioned Meta Runner. I might have to look into that. Zuko was good from the beginning. That's why his father scarred him. Yeah. See, Zuko had good writing. They knew what they wanted with that character, and they carefully steered that character in that direction from the very first season, even when he was being a terrible person. And I'm saying this as somebody who's not like the biggest fan of Avatar The Last Airbender. Not because I dislike it, it's just I was, when it came out, I didn't have access to it, and by the time I watched it, I don't know, maybe I was in the wrong headspace or something. I've seen it multiple times since, but it just doesn't really click with me, if that makes sense. And again, it's nothing wrong with the show, it's nothing wrong with the writing. It's just, it didn't hit for me. There's characters in it that I absolutely adore. I'm a big fan of Sokka. I really like Sokka, and I really like Toph. But it's not like a lot of other people where that was like the best cartoon they have ever seen in their lives. And it never hit that way for me. It was always like, oh, this is a pretty good cartoon, if that makes sense. But even as somebody who does not have this extreme fandom love for it, I can recognize the very excellent writing that Zuko has. It's objectively well written. You don't need to be a super fan to know that it's written well. Sorry I'm late, but I'm happy to be here. Hey, Goofus. Oh, Indigo, thank you so much for the super chat. I know there's a rumor that Andy Stevenson projected himself and his girlfriend onto Catra and Adora. Would explain season 5. That would explain some of season 5, but there's other things like, why was Zordak not in season 5? That's a big question, and a major what were you thinking moment is, where is Zordak? He was like one of your best characters, and you wrote him out of the show, and I can't figure out why. That was one thing. Another thing is having the parental abusive figure die by telling Catra and Adora, I have always loved you. What the hell was that? See, I'm getting riled up just talking about it because it's so bad. A lot. See, it's not just Catra. There's just a lot of, but why? Why did you write it this way? Also, what's his name? Bo? Bo is like angry at Glimmer for like an entire season. But then when Adora is like, oh, Catra's our friend now, Bo is immediately like, okay, that's cool. What? It's, again, just a lot of things where I'm like, how did this happen? Because this isn't just one problem. This is like all the problems. Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Oof. I have had people who used to be fans of it legitimately tell me, don't watch it. Because I do understand that it crashed and burned in its final season, but I've wondered if I should watch it and cover it knowing it's terrible, but I have had fans contact me and say, listen, I used to love this show, don't even bother, don't even watch it, it's not worth it. I think Shadow Weaver actually said, you're welcome. No, she like genuinely gives like a, I did it for your own good. I did it to make you strong. She gives this entire emotional speech and I'm like, bitch, you systematically abused both these characters. I don't give a crap. I really don't care about your sob story. And then both Catra and Adora are like, oh, I'm so sad she's dead now. And I'm like, I'm not. Don't bother with it. It's shipping versus forces of good writing. Yeah, that's kind of what I heard. I heard that the reason it crashed and burned was because of the ship baiting. And, I mean, for obvious reasons, shipping is not interesting to me, like, at all. I don't find any enjoyment out of it. So if that's, like, the majority focus of the show, I also don't think there'd be enough for me to get anything out of it, really. It's not like I'm against romance and stories, right? Otherwise, why the hell am I into Sailor Moon? It's just, it needs to work with the narrative, not as a distraction from it. What is my music doing? Okay, we're still good. I like romance and shows, but Star vs. was awful in that department. Yeah. I think since it's come out, well, since it's finished, I have not heard one good thing about Star vs. the Forces of Evil. And I mean this like directly from its fans. Like, the fans itself have... Oh, I'm stumbling over my words. The fans have not had one positive thing to say about it since its release. Like, at all. Romance needs to be condiment, but it struggles as the main course. Kind of, but not really. I feel, again, if you're going to put romance in your story, it has to aid the narrative. It doesn't have to distract from it. I know that I'm hyperfixating on it at the moment, so forgive me for the comparison, but the romance in Mass Effect, for instance, when you're romancing Garrus, doing that adds nothing narratively to the story. It doesn't add anything to the wider plot. But it doesn't well, I say it doesn't add anything to it. It doesn't add anything narratively to it. It doesn't make the story more interesting. But what it does is it provides texture to the story. It adds an extra layer and humanizes the characters, because you're dealing with this galaxy shattering event, but giving this relationship between Shepard and Garrus, it gives humanity to Shepard's character and humanizes her, so she doesn't become space Jesus. She's just a person, and a person needs emotional support, and that's where Garrus comes in. So even though there's no narrative addition, it adds to the overall atmosphere because it gives more depth to the characters, and also gives flavor to certain missions and scenes, because, you know, if you're romancing Garrus, you're going to have him with you every single mission, and if you're romancing him, it gives him like a ton of extra dialogue that he says on missions, so it adds to the overall theme, even though it doesn't add anything to the story. But if you're going to have a romance where every few scenes, the story, like the plot, has to grind to a standstill so that your characters can argue about their relationship, that's not adding to the narrative, that's causing frustration. Because your audience is just going to sit there and scream, "We don't care about your nonsense relationship problems. There are bigger issues you need to focus on, for heaven's sake." It looks wonderful, thank you. I think the same thing for comedy. Anything that is comedy first is pretty lame to me. Like romantic comedy, action comedy, slice of life comedy. I guess so. I tend to find like we don't really get like clean comedies anymore. But comedies, like you said, they need to have something to them, because I'm not a big fan of like what Marvel is doing, where it tries to encompass every single genre into a single movie, right? They're trying to make every single superhero movie also be a comedy, but also be an action movie, but also be all ages, but also be emotional. Like they want it to be everything all at once. I'm not the biggest fan of that, because I think it waters down every single element of the movie. And that's why I think I like Guardians of the Galaxy, because Guardians of the Galaxy are very unapologetically comedies, except the third one. The third one is much more of a drama, but the third one also has a lot fewer jokes. And what jokes it has ties back into the serious nature. You know, they're more tragic jokes than they are distracting jokes. But comedies that are comedies for the sake of comedy, the best ones don't really try and be anything else. I'm thinking movies like Airplane. That's always my go-to, because it's just, there is nothing else to Airplane except being a comedy. And it's a great film. It's a fantastic movie. I forgot what my point was, but I hope somewhere in there I made it. Comedy is the second hardest genre to write. What's the first one? Because I always heard that comedy was the number one hardest genre to write for. Because if anything else is a bad movie, it's funny. But if a comedy is a bad comedy, it's not funny, so you're left with nothing. Thor Ragnarok's success made Marvel realize comedy can sell, so they just kept doing it even when it's not necessary. See, I stopped watching Marvel by that stage. I don't think I even... Sorry, I hiccuped. I don't think I even saw Thor Ragnarok. In fact, no, I didn't. I don't know why I said I don't think. I have not seen Thor Ragnarok. I just don't have any interest in it. I did remember Amphibia had an episode where Sprig and Ivy almost messed up a mission because they wanted to be together. Yeah, see, it's fine, but if it's frustrating and it's distracting you from the mission at hand, again, it's just because the audience is like, listen, we don't care, get on with it. Again, if I were to compare it to something, let's say Sailor Moon, in the final season, in the final season, relationship is a big part of the narrative, even though it's not part of the story, because Usagi is struggling with the fact that Mamoru is not contacting her and he's not writing to her, and she thinks he's in America studying to become a doctor. She doesn't actually know that he's died. And that's not a spoiler. That's how the final season starts, is Mamoru gets killed in a plane crash. So her being isolated because her main emotional support is missing and not talking to her, and she doesn't know that he's died, that's not part of the main story, but it's a major part of the narrative. And Usagi's like isolation and the fact that she has no emotional support because her friends keep getting killed in the final season, you know, it's not a distraction from what's happening. To be fair, the point of that Amphibia episode was that they were in the wrong. Yeah, see, I guess it's better when it's like that. But even if you frame it that way, if it's frustrating to watch, it's frustrating to watch. You know? I think a movie or a TV show, more movies than TV shows, can be unpleasant experiences by design. Like a movie that is genuinely made to make you uncomfortable or just feel gross inside. That's one thing. But to make your audience frustrated is another. It's like boredom. It's fine if a movie is bad, you can still enjoy it. But if a movie is boring, there's absolutely no saving it. It wasn't a plane crash? Yeah, I know he was attacked by Galaxia, but that's like the easiest way I can describe it to people who haven't seen Sailor Moon. Because otherwise I would have to describe like, oh, well, what actually happened was Sailor Galaxia attacked the plane and Mamoru was on the plane, and that's why he died, and that's also why it wasn't reported to Usagi with what happened. You know, it becomes very convoluted to try and explain all that. It's just easier to be like, the plane blew up and he died because he was on the plane. Uncut Gems is a good example of a movie that strives for an unpleasant experience. That movie was so stressful. Yeah, see, I'm thinking like even my frame of reference would be something like Silence of the Lambs, which is a genuinely uncomfortable movie. Like you're not having fun while you're watching Silence of the Lambs, or like The Shining. I really enjoy The Shining, but if you're watching The Shining and you don't really watch it a lot, and you're watching it for the first time or the second time, it's not a fun experience. You're not enjoying the experience of watching it. Like, everything in that movie is designed to make you uncomfortable and, like, just squirm in your seat. That's how that movie was designed to make you feel. Or Schindler's List. Yeah, I haven't watched Schindler's List, not for negligence. I don't think I'd be able to watch Schindler's List. I don't think I have the emotional capacity within me to watch Schindler's List. It would just be far too upsetting to me, specifically because it's about events that really happened. If it was a fictional story, maybe. But the fact that it ties into real-world history, I can't inflict that movie on myself. I have read Mouse by Art Spiegelman, and that alone was really difficult to get through, but I don't think I could do Schindler's List. I just think that's a movie I couldn't do. If I make her stockings black... No, it should be okay. No? What are her stockings? Well, they are black. Okay, well, I'm going to make them black then and hope that it doesn't become too cluttered. Blackadder goes forth. That I would actually be fine with watching, because the humor, even though it's a horrific situation, the humor is that British humor where it makes the horror of the situation a lot more palatable. Where it's not shying away from the fact that this is a horrific situation. It's just, it makes it easier to digest. And also, I find World War I a lot easier to handle emotionally than I do the Second World War. For obvious reasons. Can I use the paint bucket, or is it going... Okay, I can. Excellent. Do you want to know? Do you know that they are making a Toy Story 5? I did hear that. I've not seen Toy Story 4 because I was like, well, why did you make this? The third one ends the story. What's the point of making another one? And I think I feel the exact same way about Toy Story 5. It's like, what's the point of this though? Bridge Over the River Kwai, I've not watched it. I might watch that. I owned the complete, I think I said this before, I owned the complete set of the Showa manga by Shigeru Mizuki, and I read the first part and I had to put it down because I started reading it just like at the start of 2020, and a lot of what happens at the start of Showa was what was happening in the real world at the time. So when I finished the first part of Showa, I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna put this down. I don't need to live out the real world in the manga as a sort of prophecy for how things are going. But I think I should pick that back up and read the rest of it, because I've read a lot of Shigeru Mizuki's other work because I'm a big fan of his. And I think I should be okay with it. And why I bring that up is because obviously Shigeru has a lot of his first-hand account of the Second World War. And I think I should be okay with that, especially because I enjoy the way that Shigeru talks about the horror of that situation and like how he has mentally processed it. And also because at the end of his life, he was just a really positive, happy guy. He was a genuinely like positive, just nice person, and he had a big zest for life. He was happy about life. He was happy with living. He even had like 7 rules of happiness, how to live a happy life. So reading the horrific things he went through with the Second World War, it's kind of more palatable because you know that in the end, despite everything he went through, not only did he lived on to be a genuinely happy and fulfilled person. What about Lightyear? I will have to watch Lightyear when I cover like the problem with Pixar, and if you weren't here earlier, how Pixar has shoeboxed themselves into they have to make movies that make people emotional because that's their reputation. So when I make that video talking about that, I'm gonna have to watch the Pixar movies I've missed out on, including Lightyear. Do this. I'm just gonna grab a drink from my water bottle quickly. So give me a sec, because my throat's killing me, because I'm out of practice talking so long. Why would I even mention that movie? Unfortunately, because it's a movie that exists. Elemental flopped hard, apparently. Yeah, I heard people talking about it's because the marketing let it down or something. I've been avoiding videos about the topic just because I want to watch it and do a video on Pixar as it exists at the moment. And I try and avoid videos talking about topics I want to cover because I don't want them to influence my opinion. I'll probably watch a few videos about Daikon 4 though, just to make sure that I've got a lot of the information correct. Because unfortunately I don't speak Japanese, so it's a little difficult to do research into Daikon because I can't look at primary sources. I have to look at translated sources. So I might watch a few videos about Daikon 4 just to make sure that I've got a wide variety of facts. And because, I mean, I've already seen Daikon 4. I know what my feelings are about it. It's not like I've never watched it before. I know how I feel about it. So there's not much that other videos can influence in terms of my feelings. And facts are facts. You know, your feelings, regardless of what your feelings are, the facts are what the facts are, whether you know them or not. Sure. Everyone always uses marketing as a reason when a movie they wanted to succeed fails. I guess that's true, but it has been a problem in the past. Like, The Iron Giant flopped at the box office specifically because of its marketing, in that it didn't have enough. Cats Don't Dance is the biggest flop Warner Brothers has ever seen, because it had zero marketing. And the reason why is because there was a studio merger as the movie was releasing. So the new owners didn't want to spend any money on marketing because they didn't pay for the movie to be made. So whatever profit the movie made, like whatever money the movie made, would be profit regardless of whether it flopped or not. So they didn't want to put in money into the movie by marketing it, because even if it was as big a flop as it ended up being, it was profit. So those are only two cases in which the marketing really did affect the outcome of the movie. Okay. Got a few drinks in, now we can continue. Treasure Planet also flopped because it was sent out to die. Treasure Planet's a weird situation. I love Treasure Planet. It's just a very strange situation because I genuinely can't understand why it flopped, and I can't understand why a lot of my lecturers when I was at college disliked it as much as they did. I even asked them and they couldn't give me a straight answer as to why they disliked it. That response, that's why I watch this channel. Good gravy. That was educational. Thank you. I'm just talking like off the top of my head, like random trivia I remember. So if I'm in a live stream, feel free to fact check me because I obviously don't have the sources in front of me. I'm just talking from memory. So there is always a chance I might be misremembering something or be mistaken in how I remember something. But generally, if I just say something like that, I'm pretty confident that I'm remembering correctly. But, you know, if it's in a live stream, just be aware there's a chance that I'm saying something really stupid that's not true. I hate the robot, the lecturers. It wasn't the robot. The one answer I got from a lecturer why he disliked it was he felt that the characters' designs clashed. He felt that the characters didn't feel like they came from the same movie, which didn't strike me as a good enough reason to dislike it to the degree of saying it's a bad movie, right? Because, I mean, I've watched movies and shows where I hated the art design, but I would call them good shows because they were well written. You know, I can hate the character design, I can hate the art style, and still be like, yes, but it was actually a good show. A prime example is the 2003 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I hate the way that show looks, and I was a massive part of the fandom when it came out. Treasure Planet was my favorite Disney movie growing up. Yeah, it was really good. It's a genuinely good film. Ow. Just shifted position. Hey, Orc Prof. Oh, hey, Dark Frost Star. TBH, I thought the world building of Treasure Planet was cool and unique, though. Yeah, it was really good. I remember when the trailers for Treasure Planet came out, and it, like, shows the moon, and then the moon becomes the space station. That was, like, one of the coolest things I'd ever seen in my life when that came out. Make this a little lighter. 2003 TMNT, hell yeah. Such a good show. Good lord, that was a good show. Well, the first 4 seasons were good. Everything after the 4th season we don't talk about. Here we go. I need to decide what to actually make the gem. Oh, you know what? There's magenta in her design, which I haven't got into yet. So I'll make the gem magenta. There we go. Okay, what else? I know the caps are missing. I'll get to that. Let me do her details, and then I'll see what extra, like what color I want to make her sleeve caps and what colors I'll put on her skirt. Still not over Netflix cancelling Inside Job. They had a gem on their hands and threw it in the gutter. Yeah. It's not to get into it, but it has to do with royalties and paying royalties to the people who made the show. Once it goes past a certain season, they have to pay a certain percentage to the people who made the show, and Netflix doesn't like doing that, and that's why a lot of its shows only goes up to season 3 and then gets cancelled, only to be rebooted a few years later as a brand new version, so that they can keep making a successful show without paying the original creators of it. Like, that's why that happens. And that's also why the writer's strike is happening at the moment, to stop Netflix doing that bullshit. I'm more of a Usagi Yojimbo fan than a TMNT one, but it feels like the 2003 TMNT might be the closest to me liking with that franchise, or vibing with that franchise, with maybe the early live action movies too. Yeah, same. TMNT, the 2003 one, is the one that led me to Usagi Yojimbo. And that's like what made me a massive fan of Usagi Yojimbo, is specifically because of the 2003 TMNT. Okay, now... Oh, let's make this jewel down here magenta as well. Now I have to decide what I want her sleeve cap's color to be. And I'm gonna put like cyan at the bottom of her skirt. But I want to do the Super Sailor Moon where it's got like 2 colors, so I just have to decide. Because I wonder if magenta will clash too much with the cyan. Maybe gray. I know. I'll do a test. I'll do that in a sec. Let me just finish this up. Let's do her shoulders, and then we'll do the caps over them and layer opacity. Sailor Miku looking cute. Her power should be music based. Yeah, she should have attacks like Musa does in Winx Club, like the early seasons of Winx Club, where she had all kinds of cool things that she could do. She had like she could conjure up big subwoofers, and she could do like a banshee scream and things like that. I only just now realized that this is Miku, a Sailor Moon character. Yeah. I'm excited for Sailor Cosmos to come out. That's basically why. Which, it's already out in Japan. It's in theaters. Well, it's in the road show. But we haven't heard which streaming service it's going to come through. Come to. And whether it's going to be Netflix like the other Sailor Moon movies were. So we're kind of just waiting to hear who's getting it and where we can watch the movie. I really hope there's a scene in the manga where Sailor Mars and Sailor Venus are kind of confiding in each other, because by this point some of the characters have died, and they're confiding in each other how it's going to be okay and stuff, and it is exceptionally gay. It is like the gayest thing you've ever seen in your life. And I really hope they leave it as is for the movie and they don't like clean it up. Because they have kind of sanitized the previous Sailor Crystal things. Specifically the violence. They've toned down a lot of the violence. So I really hope they don't like cut out a lot of that. But however, they haven't messed with Michiru and Haruka at all, so maybe we're in okay hands if they haven't sanitized those 2 characters. So we may be in okay hands, but I am very concerned that I'm not going to get that scene out of Minako and Rei, because it's an iconic scene. Do you like Winx Club? I like the first 3 seasons a lot, and a lot of fans only like the first 4 seasons, but season 4 is when it started to drop off for me, TBH. I have seen the first season of Winx Club, but I watched it on TV when it originally aired, and I haven't really gotten back to it at all. But I have heard that up until season 4, it's actually pretty good. I should look into that just to have it as a frame of reference. and to be like, okay, well, this is what Winx Club is like, and just kind of look into it beyond just watching the transformation scenes on YouTube. Remember the cousins? Luckily, there are no cousins in the new Sailor Moon movies. And they did have, like, Haruka in the 3rd season of the new show. They did keep the thing where Haruka changes gender, which is from the original manga. In the 90s anime, Haruka is she's just a lesbian. But in the original manga, she actually switches gender back and forth, depending on her mood, I guess. And the new show kind of keeps that. And the new show did actually make Hawkeye non-binary, which was really cool. Because I knew that Fisheye is trans in the 90s manga, in the 90s anime, but she's not trans in the manga. So I was sad because I was like, well, they're not going to make Fisheye trans in the new show because she's not trans in the manga. But they did end up, like I said, making Hawkeye non-binary, and I think they made Fisheye in the new show, in the new movie, bisexual, I think. Like, they handled that pretty well, where they realized they couldn't just ignore the elements that Ikuhara gave the original anime. Like, they couldn't change those elements because those elements had become so iconic. So I did enjoy that they managed to adapt the anime without losing... I keep messing up the word anime and manga. They ended up adapting the original manga in a way where they didn't lose a lot of the substance that the 90s anime brought to the table. That's what I meant to say. I don't know which version of Sailor Moon is Gare, but I know it isn't Sailor Moon Crystal. Yeah. The manga is pretty gay too, make no mistake. I think the 90s anime is gayer, if only because it's directed by Ikuhara. And Ikuhara went on to make Revolutionary Girl Utena, if you're unaware. So that should answer any questions you may have. Okay, I'm going to lock this layer so I don't accidentally draw in it. And make a new layer so I can add some details here. So I want this, you know what, I want the dark gray to start with, and we will add the cyan, but we're going to do that on the bottoms of the skirt. Even with how the series fell off, at least we can agree that the OG Winx series is better than Fate. Yeah, but that's not really very hard. Even as somebody who did not grow up or watch Winx Club, Fate just seemed so boring and terrible. Like, why would you make this? Well, I know why you would make this. You would make it because Riverdale. But apparently, the original creator of Winx Club, he didn't really have a lot of control over the Fate Winx Netflix show. Like, he kind of handed it over to Netflix and allowed them to write what they wanted. So the reason that Winx Fate, whatever it was called, is the way it is, that's Netflix's fault. It's not the writers of Winx Club's fault. And I'm guessing it's because they were trying to make another Riverdale. Yeah, no, not Fate the anime, I'm talking about Winx Club. Riverdale isn't even successful last time I checked. I don't know why people keep trying to copy it. I think because people talk about it on social media a lot, so I think a lot of the other networks think it's a lot more successful than it actually is. From what I saw of Utena, I got the impression that in contrast to Sailor Moon being the hero for average girls, that Utena was the hero of girls that feel like they don't fit in several ways. Utena is a beast of a show, and I considered, and I might still do it. Oh, super chat. Thank you, Indigo. I'll finish my thought in a second. What did you think of Ikuhara's lesbian bear anime? I still need to watch it. I'm aware of it. I still need to watch it. I hear it's insane, but I expect no less from him. So I'm expecting it to be more like Mawaru Penguin Drum than Utena though. But I was thinking of making a video on Utena, not breaking it down episode by episode, because again, I would die, but kind of explaining it to people who want to watch Utena, and kind of explaining to them what they're in for. Not just in terms of a content warning list, because it's going to need a content warning list, but also in terms of, look, this is a scene that happens in Utena. This is what the characters say. Okay, you got that? Now, this is what they're actually saying, which is completely different to what's being discussed on screen. And that's what every single episode is like. I was talking about this on my Tumblr because somebody was asking about it. And just the amount of double talk and not innuendos, but characters say one thing, but they're actually talking about a subject that they're not talking about. It's difficult to explain. Again, this is why I thought about doing a video on it, because it's insanity. It is pure insanity. There's a reason why Utena, if you go to the website Empty Movement has an entire tag on their website called Essays. And it is pages upon pages upon pages of philosophy and psychology students breaking down what's going on in Utena, because there's just so much. There is so much. I was even thinking of being like, okay, you know Neon Genesis Evangelion? Okay, well, Utena is what people think Neon Genesis Evangelion is like. Like, Evangelion is very surface level in terms of metaphor and such. Utena is what people think Evangelion is when they say, oh, Eva is so deep and meaningful and has all this metaphor. It's like, no. You're thinking of Utena. And I'm allowed to make that joke because I learned yesterday that... Okay, I've seen half of Evangelion, but the character that comes in much later in Evangelion, where a lot of people like to ship him with Shinji, I forget me, again, I'm terrible with names, the character with like really silver hair, and lots of people say he and Shinji are like very blatantly shipped in the show. Turns out, Hideaki Anno based that character on Ikuhara. So I'm allowed to make that comparison because Anno and Ikuhara are like BFFs. In fact, Anno wanted Ikuhara to work on Eva, but he was busy making Utena at the time. Kaoru? No, I don't think it's Kaoru. It might be again, though. I am terrible with names. I know I keep saying that, but I need you guys to understand just how bad I am with names. Like, it's an honest problem. Let's do blur. But I'd like to see a video on Utena because maybe I would get more into it if I better understood it. Yeah, I think I might do that. Just like a video, it'll be more laid back. It won't be like a an essayist video, I suppose. It'll be like, listen, okay, you want to watch Utena? Let me explain to you what you're in for. And then you can watch Utena and kind of know what you're getting yourself into. Because when I watched Utena the first time, I was told, oh, it's like a Yuri. It's a Yuri magical girl anime. And that's all I was told. And that is not an accurate representation of what Utena is in any way, shape, or form. That is like the worst way to try and describe to people what Utena is like. Kaori Nagisa. Yes, that's the character. So Nagisa is purposefully based on Ikuhara. Should I give her cyan as part of her skirt pattern here at the bottom? See, I'm worried if I put cyan here, it's gonna... yeah, see, it's very eye-searing if I put cyan here. Which is why I'm not super keen on doing it. Ugh, not cyan, magenta, sorry. It's late and I've been talking a lot. My brain gets fried after a while. Eva isn't necessarily deep in a metaphorical sense. Exactly, it is very heavy and uncomfortable, but in a way that works. Yeah, like, I'm not saying Eva is shallow. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying people think that the symbolism in Evangelion means things, and a lot of it doesn't. A lot of it is done for aesthetic reasons. A big point is the Christianity in Evangelion. The only reason there's a lot of Christian themes in Evangelion is because only 1% of Japan is Christian, and Anno wanted to give his mecha anime a unique flavor that would be seen as exotic and interesting to the Japanese audience. That is literally the only reason there's a lot of Christian symbology in Evangelion. That's literally it. Utena became a car. Yes, that's a direct quote. I have that screenshot where he's just like, she turns into a car. Which she does, by the way. Hey, Chain Mistress. Okay, I think I got that right. Yeah, sorry, it's late. I didn't mean to call cyan magenta. Maybe I should add yellow. That will be a little less eye-searing than magenta would be. Because I do want to give her a third color. Okay, that should... Yeah, I'm going to do that. That should work nicely. Because then it ties into these things on her headphones and her tiara. I actually only like the first few episodes of Evangelion. I need to watch all of it, especially if I'm going to reference it when I try and like make a video explaining to people what Utena is like. Because, you know, when I make a video and I talk about something, even if I just mention it briefly, I need to watch what I'm talking about so I'm not saying something incorrect. Because I actually have a big fear of spreading misinformation. That's like a genuine anxiety of mine. So even if it's something I only reference in passing, I need to watch what I'm talking about so that I know that I'm not saying something that's incorrect. Like, what was I watching? I was watching something. I was making a video about something. And as a result, I had to watch the entirety of Mr. Deeds Goes to Town. And I don't think I ended up even using any clips from that movie in the final video. But I watched the entire movie just to make sure that I wasn't going to say something that was incorrect. Because again, I don't want to spread misinformation. So if I'm going to make a video priming people what to expect in Utena, and I want to mention Evangelion, I'm going to have to finish Evangelion. Luckily, I think it's on Netflix. And even if it's not, I mean, I can find it easily enough. It's just convenient when it's on Netflix, you know. That. Who's your favorite Disney princess? Probably Ariel. Just because The Little Mermaid is my favorite Disney movie. Spoiler. When I get back to the Disney ranking, I'm actually gonna have to disqualify The Little Mermaid just because I love that movie so much that when I introduce it into the ranking, it's just gonna be put at number 1 and nothing is going to replace it. So I'm gonna have to be like, okay, well, it's getting disqualified because otherwise it would just... There's no point in making the rest of the list because it's just going to win. You enjoyed Outlaw Star more than ever? I think Outlaw Star is a lot more fun. But then again, like, Eva is like Anno's personal mental health crisis, which isn't a joke. Like, he was genuinely going through a mental health crisis when he made Evangelion, and that's kind of why Eva is the way it is. Among other reasons, but that was a major big one. I thought you were talking about the Madoka thing from your Magical Girl Friendship Squad review from a way back. Yeah, see, that was one thing, and that kind of taught me to be careful to just say things based on hearsay. Because I genuinely believed that that was the reasoning behind why Madoka is actually kind of problematic, for lack of a better word. And then I looked into where that quote came from, and I realized that it was a bad faith criticism, which didn't actually reflect the creator's opinion, and like he was misquoted terribly. And then I made the follow-up video just to kind of correct the mistake, because I did not want that misinformation to be out there in any form and be somebody who accidentally perpetrated it, you know? And that's also why if you go to the original video talking about Magical Girl Friendship Squad, I link the follow-up video where I correct myself in a card in the Magical Girl Friendship Squad video, just so that I make sure people can see I was wrong about this detail here, because I didn't fact check it, and I assumed people who had criticisms had legitimate criticisms and weren't just saying things because they hated the show. I know even was gone so far as to say the reason for the production of Eva's stuff is so hard because he ends up just going back to that place. I can see that. And I can kind of understand like why he himself might want to move on and do other things. I hear his Shin Ultraman is apparently very good. I need to watch that. It's so funny as well because again, I'm thinking of doing a video on Daikon 4. It's so funny that he would make Ultraman fan movies for like these conventions, and now he's like directing a legitimate big budget Ultraman movie. I mean, that's insane. That's how you know you're like living the dream. What happened to your gym video? Is it not up? I'll have to check. It should still be up. Either that or it got slammed with another copyright claim and it like hid it. I'll have a look. That wasn't like a great video because I was still figuring out the copyright system and how to get around it and how to work within it. So that video just kept getting slammed by copyright again and again. And I'm not entirely sure if that video is salvageable if it's been struck again. But I'll have a look and see if I can do something about that. How's our music looking? Are we still good? Yes, we're still good. Okay. I don't want to sit here in awkward silence. What Gem video? I made a video about the only episode of Gem and the Holograms I like, which is the anti-drug episode because it's insane. It is absolute madness. Okay, let's see. This one maybe. Oops, it's too big. Let's not make it white. Let's just bring this down a bit. No, it's too dark. No, I don't like that. Let's find another one. Yeah, that's better. Maybe? Nah. Guess I'm just gonna go back to my old favorite, as always. Do you need random get to know me questions? Because I had a never-ending bag of them. I was thinking of my sub counts are climbing pretty quickly. I think I might have gone past 7,000 during the stream because I was at like 6.99 earlier today. And I only know that because I don't monitor my numbers, but every single time I get the link to a YouTube video, it shows me what my sub count is. So that's how I know. I might have passed 7,000 by now, and I was thinking for when I hit 10,000, I might do something like a Q&A, I guess, for lack of a better word. And I was also thinking of, for a 10,000 special, to do like a list of my personal favorite anime, perhaps, or my favorite anime movies, which might be more interesting, because I just think that's the kind of content that works well for a milestone video, rather than just making a random video where you're kind of just self-aggrandizing and you're like, oh well, these are the anime I like. I don't know, I'm overthinking it, I know that, but I just feel like that's more suited to something like a milestone video, to do like, oh well, this is my favorite anime, this is my favorite anime movie. So maybe what we'll do is we'll do like a top 10 like favorite anime movies, and then maybe we'll do like a live stream, like a Q&A live stream as a celebration, I mean. because, like I said, the 10,000 is creeping up there. And like I said, it's a little scary when I try and think of, okay, well now I have to keep making content that people will like. And I can't always rely on there being a trash cartoon that I can talk about, which is trending on YouTube. So it's a little intimidating, but I mean, I'm going to do my best and hope people keep watching. Blur. Here we go. Blur this. Blur this. Blur this. Blur this. And I think the last thing I want to do is... Oh wait, no, not take that away. I want to do her nails. And then I'll add the glow to these buttons on her microphone, and then I think we're going to be done. Because my throat is also dying because I'm out of practice. And also, I actually don't know when the power is going out today, if it's still going out today. What's this? Okay, that's that. What's this? What's that? Okay. New layer. Set it to linear light, I think. Spray. Oops. That's too much. There we go. And magenta. Do that and that. And now let's crop her. Crop. And crop again. And there we go. Ta-da! We are done. I'm just turning off my laptop, so this is my computer. It's not yours. Okay. And there we go. Move this over. See what people are saying. Oh, thank you for the super chat, Sats. I want to make a CPAF bingo card, but I'm afraid you'll become self-aware and stop doing the things in them. Yeah, I know some of the bingo cards numbers, which is funny to me. Saying I'm bad with names is one that has to be on there, because I say that all the time. I'm very apologetic for it, because I'm worried people think I'm being purposefully rude or dismissive, and it's like, no, I'm just terrible with names. And I don't know, there should be one for like mispronunciation or something. I don't know. There's a bunch of things that you can put on a bingo card. It looks great. Thanks, guys. A lot of Sailor Moon fans don't like that modern Sailor Moon is so nostalgia baity. Do you share that opinion? I don't mind the nostalgia bait. I have problems with some of its writing decisions. Not so much writing decisions, because a lot of the writing comes from the manga. I have issues with the pacing, like how they've decided to pace a lot of it. I feel like not enough care was taken into adapting that into an animated format and have it work. Because I feel like, you know, you gotta make changes when you adapt something. You can't just use the manga as a storyboard and just go with it, because your pacing is going to be off. And I feel like not enough attention was given to pacing. And I know that a big problem with the first 2 seasons is that Usagi disregards her friends all the time. And it only becomes about her and Mamoru and the Silver Crystal. And they also like really... they turn Usagi into a wimp. Like, she's always crying, and Mamoru always has to jump in and save her. And it's odd because it's story beats that are in the manga. It's just the way that they are implemented. So that's a big problem I have with the first 2 seasons, at least. My problem with the 3rd season is I hate the art style. I genuinely hate the art style. And the movies, which is the 4th season that are already out, they're a step in the right direction. They have their issues. And I I want to say I prefer the anime, but the thing is, the season that the recent movies were based on, I hate that season in the 90s anime so much. The Super S season. That the movies, despite not being very good, are a masterful improvement over that season in the original anime. You like the 90s anime style, art style? In the Cosmos movie that's coming and the Super S movies that came out a year or two ago, their art style is a lot better because they went back to Tadano, who designed the characters in the original, and they literally asked her to help them, like, fix the designs. So the designs in the I think it's called Eternal. The designs in the Eternal movie and the designs in the Cosmos movie, they're actually okay, but it's because they got the original character designer to come back. Where are you guys? Where's my Streamlabs? Here we go. Sailor Moon. Oh, hey, Zero Pointer. Yeah, we drew Sailor Miku, and the Sailor Moon Cosmos movie is coming out soon, apparently. We don't know where it's releasing in the West, but I'm definitely going to do a video on that just because it's Sailor Moon, so I have to, because I'm going to have opinions, and I need to tell my opinions to someone. You like the weird ring eyes from the 90s? Yeah, it's good stuff. Unpopular opinion. I don't really like the pacing in the first Harry Potter movie. I feel it could have been handled better. I am not the biggest Harry Potter fan, and I don't know if it's right to say I never was. I read the first 4 books, and I really enjoyed Goblet of Fire. I really enjoyed that book. And then literally the book after that, I hated the book after that so much with every fiber of my being. And then the book after that was also really bad. And then I stopped reading them, and I saw the first 2 movies and I didn't watch the rest. So I don't know whether it's correct to say I'm a Harry Potter fan as a child, because I read the first 4 books, but I fell off really quickly. And I mean, at the moment, Harry Potter is not a franchise one can ethically consume. So it's like, oh well, I'll just read Terry Pratchett and Ursula Le Guin, who are much better writers anyway, it's fine. Sailor Moon Cosmos will be fittingly released on the moon. I hope so. Can you imagine if they like projected the movie on the moon? I'm sorry, it's really late and I'm really tired, but that is apparently the connection my brain decided to make when you said that. What if they projected the movie on the moon? I mean, at least we'll actually get to watch it that way, right? I was more of an Unfortunate Events kid than a Harry Potter kid, but I did kind of like Harry Potter. Yeah, I think that's it. Like, I was more into Terry Pratchett. I liked Harry Potter fine, but I mean, I was reading Pratchett from like age 12 or something. And even as an adult, Terry Pratchett's writing is just, it's superior writing. So even as a kid, it's like, yeah, Harry Potter's okay, but, you know, Terry Pratchett though. Almost 3 hours? Yeah, we're almost there. I was determined to finish this picture, and also because it's the first art stream back. We'll see if next month we are still at the correct patron tier to keep the art streams going. I hope we will, because I do enjoy doing these, but I was not going to, like, finish on a half-finished picture just because it was, like, getting to 3 hours. So here we are. The resolution would be out of the... Shut up. Shush. Wouldn't happen, no projector can shine light bright enough to reach the moon. Yeah, but we can dream. Like I said, at least we would actually be able to watch the movie, because I'm still waiting for the movie to release. It's like, we don't know where it's releasing. Is it coming to Netflix? Is it coming to Crunchyroll? Where is it going? We don't know. I never read Discworld, but I've kind of been interested in it, probably because I got interested in the Discworld adventure games. Definitely read Discworld. There are like 1,001 charts, like people have made charts telling you where to start with Discworld. The easiest way to start Discworld is don't read the first book first, because Terry Pratchett was still kind of figuring out what direction he wanted to take the books in. So the first one is a little clunky and not really representative of the series. But aside from that, read the back of the books or read the blurbs or whatever you want and literally pick the one that sounds the most interesting. And that's the one you should start with, because if you like it, then you can go back and catch up with what these characters had done before and kind of work backwards and figure out the history of the characters. Or you could move forwards, or you can jump around between the different characters, because there are like different characters in each Discworld book. But each Discworld book is its own story. And even though the characters are affected by events that happened to them previously, it's not that the event in the book you're reading is like... It's not like you need to have read all this backstory to figure out what's going on. You can read any of the books, and all of them are standalone stories, and they have a beginning, middle, and end. So just read up on a bunch of them and see which story sounds interesting to you and start with that one, as long as it's not the first one, and you'll be good. Oyasumi Nasai says Darkstar Frost. Unpopular opinion, the Hebrew dub of Sailor Moon is better than the English dub. Which English dub? Because I don't know what the Arab dub sounds like, but I can already tell you it'll be better than the 90s dub, because the 90s Sailor Moon dub is the reason I don't watch dubbed anime. That's how bad the original dub is. Actually, wait, do I have a clip? Can I inflict this on you guys? I'm going to inflict this on you guys if I have it on me, because it's that bad. Hold on. Yes, I do! Okay, hold on. Pause the music. I am going to show this to you guys. Okay, we were on that music. Here we go. Here it is. So, drag this here. Where is it? Where is it? Let me just see if I can... How does one do this in Streamlabs? I've never actually done this. Do that. Transition. No, that's not gonna work. Okay, hold on. Now, you need to hear what it sounds like. Oh, I know. I'll go to my like actual screen capture. Sorry, this is very important. This is very important to me. Screen capture. Add source. Yes, screen capture video. Okay, add source. Okay, transition. Okay, are you guys ready to see the worst thing you've ever seen in your life? This is literally, this isn't like a YouTube comedy dub. This is the official 90s Sailor Moon dub. This is what the original anime sounded like. Yeah, oops, sorry. Pause. That's what the original dub sounds like. And that's the reason I don't watch anime dubs. Because it was that bad. Oh wait, I've got another one. Sorry, these are the only two I have, so count yourselves lucky. Put this here, turn this on, transition. This is the other one. It's not as bad, but it's still pretty terrible.
He is the most totally pompous, arrogant blowhard. I mean, who does he think he is, and why did I ever think I liked him? We have nothing in common. Nothing at all.
So yeah, that I don't watch anime dubs anymore. And I feel it worth stating that this was when I was 13, and my standards were a lot lower than they are now. And even 13-year-old me was like, what is this? No, absolutely not. So, no. If you're saying the Arab dub is better than the English dub, if you mean the 90s dub, without having seen the Arab dub, you are correct. It is very hard to be worse than the 90s dub. I know it has its fans, but I feel the people who are fans of the 90s dub, either they grew up with it, so it's nostalgic to them, or they love it for the reasons I kind of love it, which is that it's absolutely terrible and it's the worst thing you've ever heard in your life. Which, like, fair, right? I mean, I have these clips on my computer ready to go for a reason. It's so bad. Honestly, that silly energy is why I like dubs even when they're bad. Yeah, the thing is, right, I can watch the 90s dub easier than I can watch the new Sailor Moon dub, because the new Sailor Moon dub isn't bad. It's fine. But I've been so conditioned to watch anime with the original language that I really cringe when I hear Americans dub over anime. I don't know what it is. There's like 5 anime where I watch the dub instead of the sub. And that's like FLCL, the Cowboy Bebop movie, the first and second Pat Labor movies, and the Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust. Those are the only anime I watch dubbed. Those are literally the only ones. Everything else, I can't handle it. It's just, I've built up this incompatibility with dubs. And it comes from the original Sailor Moon dub. It forced me to just, like, swear off dubs forever because it's that bad. She does like the 3 voices. Yeah, I mean, I do, but for all the wrong reasons. I love it, and that's only as an adult, right? And I would not watch the 90s Sailor Moon dub if I want to actually enjoy watching Sailor Moon. I like watching clips of it. I wouldn't watch it as a movie, as a series experience. It's just so bad. Newer anime dubs are pretty good. Yeah, they are. It's just difficult. How I often explain it, right, is I'm not American. And English is my second language. It's not my home language, even though I did go to English high school. But I don't speak English with my family that much. I do sometimes, but not really. And I'm not American. I am not familiar. Well, not familiar. I didn't grow up in American culture. So when I'm watching an anime in Japanese, there is a level of separation culturally between me and the language that's being spoken. When I watch an American dub of an anime, I am now watching it through 2 layers of cultural separation. There is an extra layer of separation added to the separation that's already there. And it removes me further from the content, right? And I don't think dubs are bad. I think dubs are fine. Dubs, they fulfill a very needed purpose. There are people who can't do subs. Either they have dyslexia, or they just can't read and watch at the same time. It's too difficult for them. And it's very easy to say, oh, well, just watch a lot more subtitled things and it gets easier. But some people genuinely have difficulty with that, right? Let me put the music back on. It can be a tricky thing to try and get used to. So if you tell them, okay, well, don't watch dubs, only watch subs, you're kind of gatekeeping in a way. But that doesn't mean that I have to watch dubs. By the way, since the last stream, I got 2 pet rats. Oh, congratulations. I totally understand your point, even though I'm not a purist of either dubs or subs, but dub is usually easier to digest for me. Yeah, no, it's fine. And like I said, there are people, I know that I saw a comment a few years ago that said, I need a dub of this because I'm dyslexic. I literally cannot read subtitles. And I mean, that's a genuine problem, right? So you can't be like a snob about it because, you know, shocking, some people have disabilities and they would like to watch anime. Am I supposed to say, no, you're not allowed to watch anime because you have a disability? I mean, that's not cool. I graduated since last stream. Not kidding, I actually... Oh, congratulations! I hope your graduation went well. Do you speak English traditionally or English simplified? I need to know you're copying the Brits or the Americans. I speak British English. South Africa used to be a British colony up until 1961. So our English is very heavily based on the British. And most English speakers here come from British descent as well. So we are very, very much British English. Both Black Lagoon and Pantheon Stocking would have dubs that are better than the Japanese version if you don't mind the constant F-bombs. That I can understand, especially with Pantheon Stocking, because that's like trying to be an American cartoon. So that makes sense to me. Okay, I am going to be calling it soon because it's 11 o'clock at night. So we're not going to say goodbye immediately. We'll go for like, let's say 10 minutes so we can wrap up. So if you guys have like anything you want to ask or talk about in terms of like, you know what, if you guys have like opinions like what I've said in terms of the kind of videos I'm thinking of making, if you have opinions on that and such, because again, I'm very scared of moving forward with content that might not get watched. I'm very concerned about that kind of thing, so I appreciate the input and such. I prefer Fruits Basket dub over sub. The boys sound a bit annoying in sub. I can see that. I have a firm stance on Baccano, but generally speaking, I say people can enjoy their media however they please. I mostly watch dubs, but that's just me. Baccano I can kind of also understand, because from what I've heard, Baccano is like a Tarantino movie by design. So that also kind of makes sense. The reason why I watch the Cowboy Bebop movie in English is just genuinely better. They change a few lines that actually make it more enjoyable to watch and kind of translates the characters a lot better. I watched Cowboy Bebop the series in Japanese. Some people say the dub of the series itself is better. I think it is. I just watched it in Japanese originally, so that's how I watch it now. But the movie is better in English. And Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is better in English because it was actually made in English first and then received a Japanese dub afterwards. So it has like a stellar celebrity cast in its voices, and they do a very good job. So that movie is very good in English. The two Patlabor movies, it's just too difficult to understand a lot of the technical jargon in subtitle form. It's easier to keep up with what they're talking about in the dub. It's just too difficult to try and understand the discussion of how computers work trying to read the subtitles. So both those movies are better dubbed for that reason. And that's the same reason FLCL is also better dubbed, because they speak so quickly and it has a phenomenal dub. And I can't watch FLCL and keep up with what's going on. It's just moving too fast. So that's kind of the reasons for those 5. Do you have any plans for a video on Mass Effect? I know nothing about it, but have been bumping into posts about it on my Tumblr feed. Gee, I wonder why. Yeah, definitely the live streams of that is happening. I have poured so much money into my gaming laptop. I've replaced its battery. I've replaced its hard drives. I've... what else did I replace on it? I don't know. There's like more than 3 things I've replaced on it. I've had the Wi-Fi checked out, so hopefully it should be able to hold a steady connection. So we are doing the Mass Effect streams on the other channel. I am hell-bent. The only thing left is I have to do a not a be right back screen, a stream starting soon screen. And I am dedicated to drawing one. I've drawn like what I'm going to use for thumbnails and stuff. And I've made like a be right back screen. I've made a screen that shows what mods I'm using. So that's happening. I just have to actually make the stream starting soon drawing. And then we're going to be good to go. I'm just going to do one test stream of it to make sure my connection can hold. And then we're doing it on the other channel. Absolutely. Because I need to indoctrinate people to be obsessed with them. I need you guys to understand. I need you guys to understand my emotional trauma that Mass Effect has given me. Do projects that you can put passion in. You want an audience that's drawn to your specific type of passion more than anything else. This sets your channel up for the long run. You know what? That's a good point. That's actually a very good point. I'm going to like ruminate on that. I'm going to write down the topics I've mentioned, and I'm going to see which one I feel most passionate about. And then I will pour my focus into that one. it probably won't be Daikon 4 right away because I'm going to have to do a lot of research. I've downloaded an entire book that's about the history of Gainax, and I need to read at least half of it to understand the time period of Daikon 4. But that's a good point, to like see what I'm most passionate about in terms of the subjects I've discussed. What's the other channel? It's CPuff Plays, I think. I'm not going to switch right now because I'm on live. I'm not planning to become a gaming YouTuber. I'm literally only planning on streaming Mass Effect. That's the only thing I'm streaming because I want people to become obsessed with it. I want to provide them with the femship experience where you romance Garrus. And I want people to see why I am so inhumanly obsessed with these games. I'm getting a Mass Effect 2 in November, actually. That's still the plan. I'm probably going to get that done for N7 Day. I've never had a tattoo before, so that's going to be interesting. But I'll link my gaming channel in a community update and just be like, hey, by the way, here it is, because somebody asked for it. I will now shut up about it. But Big Rick on the series. Which one? Oh, Bakano. Oh, okay. Yeah, I still need to watch that. I hear it's good, though. FLCL Dub was first job for Haruka voice actor and was great. She voiced Phantom Girl in Young Justice. Really, that was her first job? Because she killed that performance. FLCL is a phenomenal anime in terms of dubbing. It's genuinely shocking how good it is. I'm just glad to be moving away from Velma. In hindsight, I do wonder if bringing Mindy's real-world funk into the vids killed the replay value. Maybe, yeah. Like I said, it got to a point where I couldn't ignore Mindy anymore. Because of how much she affected Velma, it was impossible for me not to acknowledge her eventually, if that makes sense. Any chance for commissions? Not at the moment, because not only am I working on YouTube videos, I am also hired for another job that I'm starting on the 17th of July, I think. So my time is split between working for the studio and making YouTube videos. So I just genuinely don't have time to take on commissions at the moment. I'm still waiting for more Disney trivia. Listening to your strong opinions on animation is so fascinating. On the topic of animation, have you seen Keep Your Hands Off Aizukun? I have not, because when it was coming out, I didn't have a job in the animation industry at the time, and I was really down on myself because of it. So I didn't want to watch an anime that was celebrating animation when I was struggling to get a job, because I was worried it would make me feel worse, if that makes sense. But I can probably watch it now, because like I said, I'm currently working, so I'm not as down on myself regarding that kind of thing. It's hard to ignore a person who is so wrapped up in themselves. They have wrapped themselves up into the title character. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, thanks for the congrats, guys. Yeah, I'm very happy with the new job, especially because it's the second time the studio approached me. So it's not a job I myself applied for. It's a job that the studio came to me for and said, hey, we would like you to help us on this project. And I mean, that feels very good. You know, that feels very, very good. And it's a good boost in confidence for me. So I'm very happy about that. Yeah, I'm still streaming after 3 hours. We're going to wrap it up soon, though. 5 more minutes. And then I'm going to have to stop because my throat is killing me because I'm out of practice. Congrats on the... Thanks, guys. I'm really happy with it, genuinely. I take a sip. And I hope you guys have been enjoying Unicorn Warriors. I think a new... the final episode probably aired yesterday. No, the day before yesterday. Because there's 10 episodes. I don't know if it's on HBO Max yet. And if it's not on HBO Max yet, it won't be in alternative places either. But I believe the final episode is aired. I really hope they get a season 2, and I hope they ask me to work on that. Because that was like one of my favorite jobs I've ever done, is working on Unicorn Warriors. It was really fun. And it's fun when you work on a show that you genuinely enjoy and have fun with. And, you know, it's just cool to be like, hey, I'm working on a Gendy shot. So that's cool. During your previous animation job, what part did you enjoy working on the most? It was all one thing. Like, it was all the same work, if that makes sense. I was in charge of flat colors as well as hand animating shadows, like frame by frame animating the shadows that fall on the characters and making like animating the shadows so that if there's an effect like magic on screen, how that magic affects the shadow on the character themselves. That was my job, was animating that. And that was every single shot. That's what I did. I think my favorite shots were the ones with dynamic lighting, where Merlin would be throwing magic balls, so the lighting would change, which means the shadows change. And that was always my favorite thing to do. Like, I really enjoyed just switching up how the light hits the characters' faces and stuff as the magic is moving around. That was always the most fun to me. My least favorite thing to do was any time a character was vibrating or shaking, because you had to animate the shadows over and over and over and over again for every single frame, because usually there was slight differences between frames, so you couldn't just copy and paste. And that would go on for like 120 frames, and it's the most mind-numbing and difficult thing to do, because any slight shadow that was out of place was immediately visible. So you had to do it like on point, and it was just like over and over again. It's so painful, and it's like on 2s and 1s. There are no holds, so you're doing the scene for like 3 days straight and nothing is happening in the scene. That was my least favorite thing to do. Ever After High is a fun show. Love the narrators. Have you ever heard another question about Ever After High? If you did, what do you think about the character designs in that show? I have not watched it, but isn't that based on the doll line? It's not Monster High. I think it's the same people. I believe that's it. I haven't watched it, but I think that's what you mean. I was wondering, when you made a new intro for High Guardian Spice, was that the music you made, or was it an OST of an anime? It's an OST of an anime. I'm not a musically inclined person whatsoever. The music I use that's like very anime sounding, I get from a YouTuber called Marty McFly's version 2. Let me link him in chat. And what he does is he buys up obscure and unknown, not anime, but like Japanese vinyls and out of print vinyl singles and anime soundtracks for obscure anime, and he scans them and digitizes them and cleans them up so they don't have any pops or clicks on them, and he uploads that to his channel for free. And because a lot of these are from anime that are out of print, or it's a demo vinyl for an idol that never really went anywhere, as a result, a lot of those don't have copyright on them. So I like using his music because there's like literally no chance of getting a copyright strike. So if I do like a very anime inspired edit, I know I can find something from his channel or his Discord, because I'm part of his Discord, and use it there and be safe from the YouTube copyright robots. It's nice that you finally get to talk about your experience working on UWE. Yeah, man. Do you know how hard it was? I'm waiting because I finished it in October. So I have been sitting here unable to talk about it for months upon months, and now I'm talking about Velma, which is also streaming on HBO Max. And I have to watch Velma and not know when is Unicorn Warriors going to release, and knowing how good Unicorn Warriors is and how bad Velma is, and be like, this show is hurting me personally. Have you ever tried doing traditional style animation? I have not. Well, no, that's not true. I've done hand-drawn animation on paper with flipping. I've done that. I haven't done like cells in terms of inking and painting on the cell itself. But I mean, when I learned how to do animation, that's for our entire first year of 2D, or I did 1 year of 2D, and apart from the final term, everything we did in 2D was done on paper. So that's kind of how I learned how to do animation. Okay, so it is now 21 past 11, so hey Porino, we're just finishing up the stream. Second, what Shady said. What did Shady say? Shady said, I hope both your channels do well. I don't know if you realize, but your videos have high production quality in terms of YouTube content, as well as you have interesting insight and very pleasant voice. Thank you. That's very, very kind of you. I really appreciate it. like I said, I think a lot of that has to do with me not wanting to do a bad job. Because like when you do animation, right, I hate getting corrections. I hate sending off a scene and getting it back from the studio and they say, listen, this and this isn't done correctly, please redo it or please fix it. I hate when that happens. So I try my best to make a scene as perfect as possible before I send it off. And I think that might be also why the videos are the quality they are, because I am like, these videos have to be good. I don't want like the mythical, fictional studio to send them back and tell me they're bad quality. They have to be good, like right out of the gate. So I think that might also be why. But I'm really glad you think they're high quality, because I'm kind of figuring this out as I go, right? I'm kind of just copying what I see other people do and what works for them, and hoping I'm doing it correctly in my videos. And otherwise, I'm basically just transporting the kind of ranting I've been doing on Tumblr and DeviantArt for decades now, just in video form. So I'm glad it's like actually interesting to listen to. Sleepy Seapuff tries to leave but loves chatting too much. Yeah, okay, we're gonna say goodnight. So I'm gonna say goodnight. I'm gonna get some sleep. I'm gonna drink a lot of water. Because I can't just chug water in your ears. That's not the kind of content we do here. And I will see you guys hopefully next month if the Patreon tier remains active. After I do the test of the gaming laptop to make sure it handles connection and doesn't drop the connection, I'll be doing the Mass Effect streams as soon as I do the stream starting soon drawing. And I will see you guys soon. Ransok says, Oyasumi nasai, good night, and dobro nok. I hope I said that last time. Seth says, good nacht. And I think that's it. Okay, good night, guys. Let me... how do we do this again? End. Turn this on. Is this doing a thing? There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to turn off the mic and put on the ending music. And as always, music is linked in the description on each video and each stream if you want to check out the artists. And I have a playlist called Music where everything I use in both edited videos and streams is located, so you can give the original artists a little bit of love and views. A lot of them get really shafted. A lot of them deserve a lot more views than they get. And I will see you guys next time. Good night. you.